quiet moment is about to tip over. The trust you're holding onto is already a lie. Now the stillness breaks and you are pulled into the fight. Fan Yiweng chopped out a right palm and Ma Guangzu moved his head to dodge. However, this was a dummy move and a fist came out from his left hand, landing squarely on Ma Guangzu's nose. Ma Guangzu called out and returned a punch. When it came to martial arts, Fan Yiweng was much better than Ma Guangzu, but his beard was trapped and he couldn't move his head, so the punch landed on his cheekbone. One tall and one short, the two of them began to fight. Though Fan Yiweng was on top, he could not escape from his opponent. Jinlun Faweng saw that the hall had fallen into chaos. 5 people from his side had come out, and yet still they were unable to take care of the old urchin. This was a bit too shameful. Sounds of Qiang Lang were heard as he took out 2 wheels, one silver and one bronze. One swept from left to right, and the other from right to left, forming 2 arcs of light as they flew towards Zhou Batong. The ringing sounds were urgent and frightening. Zhou Batong did not know how powerful they were and said, "What are these?" He stretched out his hand to grab them. Yang Guo called out, "You can't catch them." Yang Guo threw the steel staff upwards. A dang sound was heard, and the thick, long staff was sent flying towards the corner of the room as sparks flew, and dust rose up from the wall. The bronze wheel came back to Faweng, and he once again sent it with his left hand. The wheel flew swiftly towards the beam. After this, Zhou Batong knew that it wasn't good to annoy this monk. He knew that he wouldn't be able to fight off all of them, so he flipped downwards and called out, "Excuse me, everyone, the old urchin has to leave. We'll play again another day." He then ran towards the door. However, 4 disciples in green had blocked the exit with a large fish net. Zhou Batong had experienced the fish net before and called out, "Oh no!" He wanted to escape through the window on the eastern side. He saw a green blur, and the window was covered by a fish net as well. Zhou Batong leapt back into the middle of the room and saw that in all 4 directions there were 4 disciples in green holding a fish net, blocking his path. Zhou Batong then leapt up onto the beam and used the stance, surging sky palm, to break a large hole in the ceiling. He was about to leap out through the hole when he raised his head and saw that there was also another fish net above. He had nowhere to go and leapt back to the floor. He pointed to the Valley Master and laughed. "Old yellow face, why do you want to keep me here? Do you need a playmate?" Valley Master Gongsun said dryly, "All you've got to do is return the 4 things that you took and I'll immediately let you go." Zhou Batong said surprisingly, "What use have I got with your smelly things? Even if a person could learn martial arts to a state equal to yours, who cares?" Valley Master Gongsun slowly walked to the middle of the hall. He brushed the dust off his clothes and said, "If today wasn't my wedding day, I would definitely exchange a few stances with you. Just leave the items of the valley here and leave." Zhou Batong was furious and called out, "So you say that I've definitely stolen something from you? That's crap. What have you got here in this valley?" He then started to take off his clothes, and very soon he was stark naked. The Valley Master called out to him to stop, but was ignored. Zhou Batong then showed his garments inside out. Indeed, there was nothing there. The female disciples in the hall were distressed and turned their heads away. This turn of events was something that the Valley Master had not predicted. The missing objects from the library, pill room, fungi room, and sword room were very important and had to be recovered. Could it really be that the missing objects were not stolen by the old urchin? Just as he was in deep thought, Zhou Batong clapped his hands and said, "Look at you, you're old, but why do you not act your age? You speak without thinking and you act mad and crazy. You do such an embarrassing thing in public. Aren't people going to laugh their teeth out?" Zhou Batong laughed. "Long beard, I like your temper. The 2 of us can be friends." In actual fact, Fan Yiweng has been strict and disciplined all his life. He only fought Ma Guangzu because he had no choice. He wanted to stand up many times, but his beard was wrapped around Ma Guangzu's arm, and he had no way to escape. Valley Master Gongsun frowned slightly and pointed to Zhou Batong, saying, "I'm afraid that it is you who is embarrassing himself in public, and it is you whose actions are laughable." Zhou Batong said, "I came out of my mother's womb naked, and I'm pure and innocent as I stand naked now. What's wrong with that? Look at how old you are, yet you still want to marry a beautiful young girl. Ha ha, laughable, laughable." Those words were like a hammer that smashed into the chest of the Valley Master. His yellow face became red and he couldn't say anything. Zhou Batong called out, "Oh no, I'm afraid I might catch a cold without wearing any clothes." Suddenly he dashed towards the exit. As soon as the four disciples in green saw the blur, they immediately moved positions and threw the net over him, trapping him in the net. They felt him struggling fiercely, and they tied the corners of the net, then carried him over to the Valley Master. The fish net was made out of extremely pliable and soft golden silk. Even a precious sword or saber would not find it easy to cut through it. The hand movements of the four disciples were unusual and swift. The net covered heaven and earth as it was brought forward. Even an extremely skilled martial artist would find it difficult to deal with. The only disadvantage was that it required 4 people to work it. One person alone will not be able to use it. The 4 of them were extremely proud of themselves after they caught him in one swoop. But when they saw the Valley Master examine the net, he had an expression of displeasure. They quickly looked down. They were shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. They quickly opened the net up and let 2 people out. It was Ma Guangzu and Fan Yiweng. No one could predict that Zhou Batong would suddenly dash out stark naked without his clothes. His hand movements were extraordinarily quick. He had picked up Ma Guangzu and Fan Yiweng and threw them in the net. When the 4 disciples took in the net, he quickly dashed out. The deception was unnoticeable. The Valley Master's face was full of humiliation because of what Zhou Batong had done, and even Fawang and the others felt shame in their hearts. They were all thinking, I class myself as a first-rate fighter of Wulin, and yet all of us together were unable to capture that mad old man. That is shameful. Only Yang Yu was pleased. He had great respect for Zhou Batong and thought that if he was captured, I would definitely think of a way to rescue him. Since he's managed to escape by himself, then it couldn't be better. Fawang had originally wanted to learn the background of this Valley Master, but after all this trouble with the old urchin, he wasn't in the mood to carry on. He spoke a few words with Xiaoxiangzai and Yin Kexi, then stood up and folded his arms, saying, Thank you for your hospitality. We ought to stay longer and make acquaintances, but we all have other pressing matters to attend to, and so we say goodbye. The Valley Master had originally suspected that Fawang and the others were friends of the old urchin, but he had later seen Xiaoxiangzai fight for his life and Fawang, Yang Yu, Yin Kexi, Ma Guangzu and Nimoxing attacking Zhou Batong. They all had showed signs of helping him, so he folded his hands and said, I have a request. I wonder will our 6 guests grant me my wish? Fawang said, If it's in our ability, then we'll do our best. The Valley Master said, After noon there will be my wedding procession. I request your presence. This valley is very secluded and remote. There have been very few guests over the last hundreds of years. It is the luck of 3 generations that today 6 esteemed guests have arrived. Ma Guangzu said, Will there be wine? The Valley Master was about to reply when he saw Yang Yu's eyes were fixed on something outside. His face was extremely strange. He seemed to be extremely happy, but also appeared to be full of anguish. Everyone was surprised and followed his gaze. They saw a girl in white passing along a corridor outside. The sunlight shone on her white, cold face, and it seemed that the sunlight had turned into moonlight. There was a sparkle under her eyelashes, and after she walked a couple of steps, a teardrop rolled down her cheek. Her steps were light. It was as if she was gliding on water as she made her way down the corridor. She did not glance over at the people in the middle of the hall. It was as if Yang Yu's pressure points had been sealed and he didn't move a muscle. Suddenly he called out, Gu Gu! The girl in white was at the head of the corridor when she heard the call. As soon as she did, her body trembled and said faintly, Gyur, Gyur, you're here. Is it you that's calling me? She turned her head around and appeared as if she was looking for something, but her eyes were uncertain as if she was in a dream. Yang Yu quickly leapt out of the hall and held her hand, saying, Gu Gu, you're here, I've searched for you continuously. He then suddenly called out. There was unbearable pain in the place where his finger had been pricked by the passion flower. The girl in white called out. Her body trembled, and she sat down on the floor with her eyes closed. It was as if she had fainted. Yang Yu called out, Gu Gu, how are you feeling? After a while, the girl slowly opened her eyes and stood up. She said, Who are you? What did you call me? Yang Yu was greatly shocked. He stared at her. If it wasn't Xiao Longnu, then who else could it be? He quickly asked, Gu Gu, it's Gyur, how come you don't recognize me? Are you hurt? Where are you feeling discomfort? The girl looked at him and said coldly, I do not know you. She then walked into the hall and sat down by Valley Master Gongsun. Yang Yu was flabbergasted. He returned to the hall in a daze and leaned on the back of a chair. Valley Master Gongsun's face had been unmoved all along, but now his face was filled with joy. He raised his hand towards Fawang and the others, saying, This is my bride. The wedding has been set for today after midday. He then glanced over at Yang Yu wryly, offended by his rudeness just now in recognizing someone wrongly and scaring his new bride. Yang Yu's shock was indescribable. He said loudly, "Gu Gu, could it be? Could it be that you're not Xiao Longnu? Could it be that you're not my master?" The girl said, "No, what's Xiao Longnu?" Yang Yu clenched his fists, his mind filled with thoughts. Is Gu Gu angry with me and doesn't want to recognize me? Is it because we're in danger and she's deliberately pretending? Is she like Godfather and has lost her memories? But Godfather was still able to recognize me. Could it be that there really is someone else in the world that looks exactly like her? He just said, "Gu Gu, I'm Gyur." Valley Master Gongsun frowned slightly as he watched him lose his composure. He quietly said to the girl, "Sister Liu, there are many weird people here today." The girl ignored him and poured a cup of water. She slowly drank it and glanced over at Jinlun Fawang and the others, but she avoided Yang Yu, not looking at him again. Everyone saw her sleeve tremble slightly and water splashed from the cup onto her clothes, but she did not notice anything. Yang Yu's mind was turning upside down and didn't know what to do. He turned around to Jinlun Fawang and asked, "My master and I have dueled with you before, you remember. Tell me, have I recognized the wrong person?" When the girl entered the hall, Fawang had recognized her as Xiao Longnu, but she completely ignored Yang Yu. He thought that the two must have had a lover's quarrel, so he smiled wryly and said, "I don't remember." He had endured a great defeat by them when Xiao Longnu and Yang Yu used the simple heart of the Jade Maiden swordplay against him, something which had never happened before. He thought that if the two had quarreled, it really was something that was beneficial to him. Why should he help them get back together? Yang Yu was startled again, but immediately understood in his mind he was furious. "You really are evil. That day on the mountaintop, I helped you to recuperate, and now you're doing this to me." He wanted to kill him right there and then. Jinlun Fawang saw that he had fallen to pieces, but his eyes revealed hatred. He pondered, "There's hate towards me in his heart now. If I let him live, he will be a problem in the future. Today, he's making a spectacle of himself. This really is a good chance to get rid of him." He folded his arms to Valley Master Gongsun and laughed. "Since today is Valley Master's day of celebration, of course we'll attend, but it is a bit embarrassing that my friends and I have not brought any gifts." Valley Master Gongsun was delighted when he heard that they would stay for his wedding. He said to the girl, "These people are great masters of Wulin. Just being able to have one present is a great honor, never mind being able to." He wanted to say 6 of them, but he felt Yang Yu was young. Just now when he fought Zhou Batang, though his form and position were exquisite, his internal energy was ordinary. He felt that his martial arts practice aimed for style over substance, and couldn't rank him as one of the great masters of Wulin. But if he leaves him out and says 5, it would a bit too discourteous. He hesitated a little and said, ... invite these heroes." Fawang thought to himself, "This Valley Master has a majestic air, and from the formation he set to catch the old urchin, his martial arts and intelligence are excellent. But he hasn't got the ability to do great things. Yang Yu and Xiao Longnu just said a few words and he's agitated." Valley Master Gongsun said, "Sister Liu, this is Jinlun Fawang." He then told her who they were and said Yang Yu's name last. When the girl heard their names, she just nodded slightly, her face unmoved as if she did not care, but to Yang Yu's name, she stared outside and didn't even nod. Yang Yu's face was red. His mind was turning upside like an ocean storm. Whatever Valley Master Gongsun said, he didn't hear. Nimoxing, Yin Kexi, and the others did not know his background. They thought that he was embarrassed because he had recognized the wrong person. Gongsun Lo was standing behind her father and heard every single word that Yang Yu had said. She thought to herself, "This morning his finger was pierced by the passion flower, and he immediately suffered pain from yearning for his lover. Right now he's filled with these thoughts. Could it be that my new mother is his lover? What are the chances of that? Could it be that these people have come to the valley because of my new mother?" She examined her new mother and saw that her face was expressionless. There was no joy or happiness on her face, neither was there any shyness. She did not look like a new bride at all, and her suspicions deepened. Yang Yu's chest felt as if it wanted to burst. He then thought, Gu Gu must have a reason for being like this. I better stop running away with these thoughts and find out the truth. He then stood up and bowed to the Valley Master. He said clearly, "I have a close one that looks extremely like that, miss. I apologize for my mistake just now." When the Valley Master heard these polite words, his face immediately changed and returned the bow. He then said, It's not unusual to mistake someone for someone else who can be blamed. But he stopped for a while and laughed. To have someone else who looks exactly like her is not only a great coincidence, it is also an extremely odd thing. He was saying how could there be another equally as beautiful girl under heaven's skies? Yang Yu said, "Yes, it is extremely odd. Can I take the liberty to ask this Miss surname?" Valley Master Gongsun had a faint smile and said, "Her surname is Liu. Is your close one also named Liu?" Yang Yu said no. He pondered. Why did Gugu change her name to Liu? He then had a thought. It's because I'm named Yang. Too, after another thought like this, his finger broke out in unbearable pain again. Gongsun Le saw his suffering and pitied him. Her eyes never left his face. Valley Master Gongsun examined Yang Yu for a while and then looked at the girl in white. Her head was lowered and she didn't make a single sound. He was becoming suspicious and thought, just now when she heard this punk call out, I heard her call out quietly, Gyur, Gyur, you're here. Is it you that's calling me? Could it be that she really is that little punk's auntie? But why is she not recognizing him? He wanted to ask her, but there were many people present. He thought this matter could be explained later after the wedding, so he took back his words. Yang Yu said, "This miss has not lived in this valley for long. I wonder how did you and her meet?" In ancient times, ordinarily girls would not meet outsiders easily, and they were even stricter about seeing guests on their wedding day. But Jinlun Fawang and the others didn't take much notice. Some of them were from the west, and the others roamed Jianghu. They weren't restrained by customs and traditions. They just felt that wearing plain white silk on her wedding day was a bit too dull. When they heard Yang Yu inquire about someone else's business when he asked the Valley Master how he met the girl, they felt that he had gone too far. But Valley Master Gongsun also wanted to know about the background of his bride-to-be, he thought. It could be that little punk really knows Sister Liu. He said, "Brother Yang is correct. Half a month ago, I was picking herbs by the mountainside when I saw her lying at the foot of the mountain. She had a serious injury and was on the point of death. I examined her and knew that she had suffered a fire deviation while practicing internal energy. So I took her back to the valley and used my family's medicine to help her recover. We met by chance." Jinlun Fawang interrupted. "This is the so-called thousand-leaf fate of marriage led by a string. Miss Liu must have wanted to repay this kindness, so she agreed to marry. This really is a match that was made in heaven." His words seemed to be praising Valley Master Gongsun, but in reality, he wanted to spite Yang Guo. When Yang Guo heard this, his face did indeed change dramatically. His body trembled, and there was a faint sweet taste at the back of his throat. He threw up a mouthful of blood. This Miss Liu was a name that Xiao Longnu had made up. That night after hearing the words of Huang Rong, she thought to herself that if she married Yang Guo, she will have caused him to be looked down on by everyone in the world. She felt uneasy about this, but if she were to stay with him in the ancient tomb forever, after a while he would get bored and would not be happy. She thought long and hard. Eventually she hardened her heart and quietly left. Her love for Yang Guo was immense. To suddenly leave him like this was extremely difficult. She thought that if she returned to the ancient tomb, he would definitely come back and find her, so she wandered alone in a wild, vast valley. One day she sat down to practice when suddenly her thoughts of love surged forward. It was difficult to control, and her inner Kai suddenly surged through her veins and meridians and caused her old injury to react again. If Valley Master Gongsun hadn't passed by, she would have died there in the wild mountainside. Valley Master Gongsun had lost his wife a long time ago. When he saw her, he couldn't imagine that someone could be as beautiful as she. His intent to rescue her had salacious thoughts added on to them. Xiao Longnu was disheartened. She also thought that if she lived somewhere in seclusion by herself, she would not be able to stop herself and would follow the same disastrous path again, going out again in search of Yang Guo and cause him grief. She saw the love that Valley Master Gongsun had for her, and he asked for her hand. She blocked out her heart and agreed. She thought that after she becomes someone else's wife, she will sever her ties with Yang Guo completely. Along with living in such a secluded place, she assumed that she would never see him again. Who could have thought that Zhou Batang would suddenly appear to cause trouble in the valley? The results would lead him here. Xiao Longnu was filled with emotional turmoil at this sudden reunion with Yang Guo. She thought, I've already agreed to marry someone else. I'll just keep up this act and let him leave in anger and hate me forever. With his talents and appearance, what need is there to worry that he won't be able to find someone else? Though my heart will be in pain for the rest of my life, he will be able to avoid the suffering of the future. Because of this, Although she saw Yang Guo suffering, she ignored him. But her heart was mournful, and it was becoming more and more difficult to endure. When she saw him throw up blood, she was filled with pity and sorrow. She couldn't help herself, and she too threw up a mouthful of blood. Her face was extremely white. She was staggering and wanted to return inside when Valley Master Gongsun said quickly, "Quickly sit down and don't move, don't disturb your veins and meridians." He turned around and said to Yang Guo, "Just leave. Don't ever come back." Hot tears filled Yang Guo's eyes. He said to Xiao Longnu, "Gu Gu, if I've done something wrong, you can beat me, scold me, even kill me with one thrust of a sword. I'm willing to accept all that. But why are you pretending that you don't know who I am?" Xiao Longnu lowered her head and didn't reply, just lightly coughing twice. Valley Master Gongsun was furious with Yang Guo when he angered her into throwing up blood. However, his self-control training was extremely good. He didn't break out in a rage. He lowered his voice and said, "If you don't leave, then don't blame me for being merciless." Yang Guo did not take any notice. His eyes were fixed on Xiao Longnu. He begged, "Gu Gu, I promise you that I will stay in the tomb with you forever. I won't regret it. Let's leave together." Xiao Longnu raised her head and her gaze met his. She saw his face was filled with boundless love along with thousands of pieces of pain and worry. Her heart was moved and thought, "I'll leave with him now." But she immediately had another thought. "I didn't leave him on a whim. I have thought about all the good and bad points in detail. If I give in, I will bring him trouble in the future." So she turned her head to the side and gave a long sigh before saying, "I don't recognize you. I don't understand what you are saying. Just leave." There was no force behind the words, but it was filled with love and passion. Apart from Ma Guangzu, who was a slow person and had no perception, everyone in the hall could tell that she loved Yang Guo, and these words were against her heart's feelings. Valley Master Gongsun was jealous, he thought. "Though you have agreed to marry me, you have never said half a word with such feeling." He looked at Yang Guo and saw a handsome face, his valiant air exuding everywhere. He and Xiao Longnu did indeed make a perfect couple. He pondered, "It looks like these two must be lovers. Because they had an argument, Sister Liu agreed to marry me out of anger. She still has feelings for this punk. Gu Gu, Master, these must be pet names that they use when they are flirting with each other. This punk is older than Sister Liu. How can he really call her Auntie, Master?" As he thought about this, his eyes revealed anger and hatred. Fan Yiweng was very loyal to his master. He knew that his master was lonely and was always thinking of a way that would be able to solve his master's loneliness. A few days ago, he saw his master had rescued a beautiful young girl, and the girl had agreed to marry him. He was almost happier than his master. Now he saw Yang Guo had suddenly come to cause trouble and had made his master's new wife throw up blood, but his master was still enduring this. So he came forward and shouted, "The punk named Yang, if you know what's best for you, you'll leave. We don't welcome rude guests such as the likes of you." Yang Guo heard but didn't listen. He said softly to Xiao Longnu, "Gu Gu, have you really forgotten me?" Fan Yiweng was furious. He stretched out his hand to grab his back, intending to throw him out of the hall. Yang Guo was concentrating on speaking to Xiao Longnu. He had completely ignored everything that was going on around him. He only noticed something when he felt Fan Yiweng's fingers on his back. He quickly moved out of the way and his opponent clutched thin air. But he heard a kai sound. His opponent had made a hole in the back of his garment. Yang Guo was becoming more and more anxious after his pleading once again was ignored by Xiao Longnu. If it were in the tomb where there's no one else, he could slowly plead with her. But here in the hall there were many people. Now Fan Yiweng had come out with insults and threats. He felt his whole body was filled with pain and suffering, and he turned all his anger and emotions onto Fan Yiweng. He shouted back, "I'm talking to my Gu Gu. What has it got to do with you, shorty?" Fan Yiweng shouted loudly, "My master told you to leave and never come back. If you don't listen, then don't blame me for being merciless." Yang Guo said angrily, "I choose not to leave. If my Gu Gu doesn't leave, then I'll stay here for the rest of my life. Even if I die and my bones turn to ash, I'll still follow her." These words were meant for Xiao Longnu. Valley Master Gongsun looked at Xiao Longnu and saw tears rolling from her eyes, and eventually they splashed down on her blood-stained dress. He felt sad and worried. He glanced over to Fan Yiweng and made a signal with his hands, telling him to kill Yang Guo and rid the longing that Xiao Longnu had once and for all. Fan Yiweng was surprised with the signal that his master had made. He had wanted to send him away from the valley and stop all this trouble, and that was it. He didn't think that his master would actually give him the signal to kill. He said loudly, Just because it's my master's day of celebration, you think I won't kill you?" He then looked at his master. Valley Master Gongsun once again signaled with his hands, telling him to forget about what kind of day it was and just kill him. Fan Yiweng picked up his large staff and slammed it down on the floor, filling the room with vibrations. He shouted, "Little punk, are you really not afraid of losing your life?" Yang Gu had just thrown up blood, and the blood in his chest was rolling about, wanting to be thrown up. The internal energy of the ancient tomb sect is all about controlling your emotions. When Xiao Longnu's master imparted her the formulae, she repeatedly told her to purge her emotions. In the end, Xiao Longnu was not able to control them, and as a result, she threw up blood on many occasions. Yang Gu was taught by Xiao Longnu. His internal energy was of the same nature as hers, and now his arms and legs were as cold as ice. He thought, "I'll throw up blood violently right here and now and die here in front of her. Will she still ignore me?" But then he had another thought. Gu normally loves me very much. There must a reason behind all this. Most probably she's being blackmailed by that Valley Master. She has no alternative, and that's why she's ignoring me. If I cripple myself, it would be difficult for me to oppose him. He made up his mind. His heart was stirred, and he decided to fight his way out of this problem and rescue Xiao Longnu from this place. He steadied himself and submerged his Kai into his Dan Tian, forcing the blood in his chest to flow back down. He gave a wry laugh and pointed to Fan Yiweng, saying, "This valley feels like it's filled with an air of death. When I want to come, you can't stop me. When I want to leave, don't dream of trying to make me stay." Everyone saw the emotional state that he was in. He was like a madman, but all of a sudden, he had steadied himself. They were all surprised to see this. When Fan Yiweng saw Yang Gu throwing up blood just now, he felt sorry for him and had no desire to threaten his life. He swept his staff, and a fierce gust of wind brushed over Yang Gu's clothes. He shouted, "Are you going to leave?" Valley Master Gongsun frowned and said, "Yiweng, why are you still going on about leaving?" Fan Yiweng had just received a strict order from his master. He had no choice but to sweep out his staff towards Yang Gu's shins. Gongsun Le knew her senior apprentice brother had great martial arts. Though he wasn't tall, he possessed great strength, and he had learned about 70 to 80% of her father's skills. His steel staff had killed countless wild beasts. She thought that with Yang Gu being of a young age, he would definitely not be able to beat her apprentice brother's 81 stances of the spilling water staff. If she waited for them to fight, it would be difficult for her to save him. Though she saw her father's face was harsh as frost and filled with anger, she plucked up her courage and stood towards Yang Gu, saying, "Master Yang, staying here will do you no good. Why do you want to give your life away for no reason?" Her tone was gentle, filled with compassion. Fowing and the others looked at her, secretly surprised, thinking, "Yang Gu came to the valley with us. When did he become friends with this girl?" Yang Gu nodded and laughed. He said, "Thank you for miskindness. Do you want a beard to play with?" Gongsun Le was startled and asked, "What?" Yang Gu said, "I'll rid him of his beard and give it to you to mess around with. How about it?" Gongsun Le lost her color in shock. She thought that he must be bored with his life, actually daring to make a joke like this. The rules of the Passionless Valley were very strict. These few words of advice to Yang Gu would result in a heavy punishment. How could she know that he would reply jokingly? Her face went red. She didn't dare to say anything else and stepped back into the line of disciples. Fan Yiweng was a short man and was immensely proud of his beard. When he heard these mocking words from Yang Gu, he threw away his staff and rushed forward, shouting, "Little punk, I'll let you experience pain from my beard first." In the middle of his cry, his long beard swept forward. Yang Gu laughed. "The old urchin didn't cut off your beard. Let me have a try." He took out his scissors from his bag and cut forward towards the beard. Fan Yiweng's beard was flung forward towards his neck. It had great force behind it. Yang Gu had already moved out of the way. The opened blades of the scissors came forward. A "ka" sound was heard as they closed. Fan Yiweng was shocked, and he quickly did a somersault to get out of the way. Just one slight delay, and his beard would have been cut off. This wasn't an ordinary kind of shock. The people who were watching called out quietly. The reason Yang Gu had asked blacksmith Feng to make this pair of scissors was so that he could use it against Li Machu's fly whisk. Li Machu uses her divine 5-poison palm and her fly whisk to sweep through Jianghu. Her fly whisk techniques were superb. Before Yang Gu could use the scissors to neutralize her fly whisk techniques, he had to first think carefully about how to use it, how he'd need to thrust forward when the fly whisk swayed around, how he'd cut when the fly whisk came forward to attack him. How could he know that before he had the chance to use it against Li Machu? He would actually came across a person in the Passionless Valley who uses his beard as a weapon. Yang Guo thought, no matter how good your beard is, it can't be better than Li Machu's fly whisk. He had no fear and pressed forward with the scissors. Fan Yiweng had spent over 10 years in training his beard technique. Because he had his hands for protection, his beard was more lethal than the conventional whip or fly whisk. His head swung around and brought his beard forward. At the same time, he threw out 2 palms towards Yang Guo. A while ago, Zhou Batong had tried to use the scissors to cut off his beard. But instead of cutting it off, the beard wrapped around the scissors, and he could only admit defeat. Everyone had seen the martial arts of Zhou Batong. Everyone knew that Yang Guo could not compare to him. Who knew that in the hands of Yang Guo, the scissors swept, cut, and threatened, going to and fro like it was in a dance. It was actually better than the way Zhou Batong had handled the scissors, and everyone marveled. In the proficiency of martial arts and internal energy level, of course Yang Guo was miles behind Zhou Batong, but he had carefully studied the stances of Li Machu's fly whisk and had devised scissors stances to counter them. Because the way the beard was used was similar to that of the fly whisk, the scissors were indeed effective against the beard, and Yang Guo got the upper hand. Of course, this was different to the unplanned and unstructured scissor techniques of Zhou Batong. But Fa Weng and the others did not know the reason behind it. They saw with their own eyes Zhou Batong thrusting the scissors towards him. In accordance with his character, this would be something that he would devise to cause trouble. Yang Guo was most proficient with a sword, and Fa Weng knew this. On many occasions, Fan Yiweng was almost injured by the scissors, and as a result, he stopped looking down on Yang Guo. He changed his stance and swung his beard wildly around, striking out in all directions, attacking forward and sweeping across. This actually formed another set of stances. Yang Guo cut downwards many times, but each time he caught thin air, he also felt the wind from his opponent's palms was fierce. Sometimes the beard was a decoy while the palm was real. At other times, the palms lured the opponent and the beard attacked. This was a set of ingenious martial arts that the world of Wulin had never seen before. In a short while, tens of moves were exchanged. Yang Guo thought, the Valley Master is vicious and cruel. His martial arts would definitely be much better than this shorty. If I can't beat the disciple, how can I beat the master? He became slightly impatient. But Fan Yiweng's beard was thicker and longer than Li Machu's fly whisk. As the beard spread out, there really were no weaknesses. After a few more stances, Yang Guo concentrated on his opponent. He saw his opponent's head swinging around. He had a ludicrous appearance, and his beard was getting faster and faster. His head was swinging around especially fast, and suddenly he had a thought. He had found a way to break this martial art of his. Yang Guo leapt back 5 feet and called out, "Hold off." Fan Yiweng stopped his attack and said, "Since you've admitted defeat, little brother, just leave." Fan Yiweng said, "What's it got to do with you? I've never cut my beard before." Yang Guo shook his head and said, "Pity, pity." Fan Yiweng said, "Pity what?" Yang Guo said, "In 3 stances, I'm going to cut off your beard." Fan Yiweng thought, "You and I have already fought for tens of stances and we're at a draw. You must be dreaming if you think you can win in just 3 more stances." Fan Yiweng shouted, "Watch this stance." His right palm came chopping out. Yang Guo slanted his left palm and smashed down with the scissors in his right hand, attacking the opponent's forehead on the left side. He was tall. When the scissors attacked his opponent's head, it cut downwards. Fan Yiweng slanted his head to avoid the attack, but then Yang Guo's left palm came downwards across his forehead on the right side. There was a vicious force behind the chop. Fan Yiweng quickly moved his head to the left. The opponent's attack was fast. His reaction was also very swift, and his beard followed him and swung upwards. Yang Guo's scissors had been opened and was guarding the right. A caw sound was heard as the scissors cut down. He cut off over 2 feet of the beard. Everyone called out and all felt shocked. They saw that he did indeed succeed in cutting off Fan Yiweng's beard in 3 stances. After fighting for a long time, Yang Guo eventually found out that when Fan Yiweng's beard was flung to the left, his head would first move right. When the beard was swung upwards, his head would first hang down. He cursed himself for being so stupid. His beard is on his head. If the beard moves, he will of course first move his head. I didn't attack the source and tangled with his beard. What an idiot. He planned his 3 attacks and then told him that he would cut off Fan Yiweng's beard in 3 stances. Fan Yiweng was stunned as he watched the beard that he has grown for half his life floating to the floor. He felt anger and sorrow at the same time. He went up and down as he picked up his staff and then shouted angrily, "If you don't kill me, then don't dream of leaving the valley." Yang Gu laughed. "I wasn't planning on leaving in the first place." Fan Yiweng swept his staff towards his waist. Ma Guangzu had fought with Fan Yiweng previously and had been on the receiving end. Right now he was feeling rather pleased and said loudly, "Old shorty, your face wasn't the best sight in the first place. But after losing your beard, you look even weirder." When Fan Yiweng heard this, he clenched his teeth and fought even harder. Yang Gu only knew what his soft beard techniques were like and didn't know how strong he was. He saw the incoming staff and stuck out his scissors. A dang sound was heard and his arms felt numb. The scissors had been bent out of shape. Just one stance and the scissors were out of commission. The onlookers had seen Yang Gu gain victory, but they didn't predict that the weapons would change and the battle would continue. The difference between the two could be clearly seen. One was holding an extremely long and heavy weapon, while the other was holding a piece of scrap metal. Gongsun Le could not hold back anymore and called out, "Master Yang, you're not as strong as my senior apprentice brother. Why continue?" Valley Master Gongsun was beginning to get angry when he saw his daughter protecting an outsider. He glanced at her and saw her face was filled with concern. He then looked at Xiao Longnu and saw that her expression was calm, appearing like she had no concern for Yang Gu's safety whatsoever. His anger immediately turned to joy. He thought, so she has no feelings for that punk. Otherwise, how could she have no concern for him now that he's facing danger? He didn't know that Xiao Longnu knew that Yang Gu was ingenious, and his martial arts were above those of Fan Yiweng. When the two fight, victory is certain, so there was no need for her to worry. Yang Gu threw the bent scissors on the floor and said, "Old Fan, you're not a match for me, just throw away your staff and surrender." Fan Yiweng said angrily, "If you can beat my staff, then I'll knock myself dead." Yang Gu said, "What a pity, what a pity." Fan Yiweng called out, "Watch this stance." A stance of pushing down the peak of Mount Tai was sent out towards his head. Yang Gu dodged to the side and his left foot was placed on the head of the staff. Fan Yiweng shook his hands, flinging the staff. Yang Gu followed the staff and was forced into midair, but his left foot was still standing steadily on the staff head. Fan Yiweng shook the staff a few times, but couldn't shake Yang Gu off. He was about to turn the staff when Yang Gu's right foot advanced, and he was actually running towards him on the staff. In the eyes of Fan Yiweng and the onlookers, these two stances were inconceivably strange. But in reality, it was a technique of the ancient tomb sect that utilizes great lightness kung fu to defeat a long and large weapon. Years ago, when Li Machu fought Wu Santong in Jiaxing, she stood on the chestnut tree that Wu Santong had used as a weapon, and she couldn't be shaken off by him. Li Machu had used this type of martial art. Fan Yiweng was stunned, and in this time, Yang Gu's left foot had advanced a step, and he kicked out with his right towards his nose. Fan Yiweng was in an extremely distressing situation. The enemy was attached to his weapon. If he leapt backwards, he would bring the enemy with him and would not be able to avoid that kick. His hands were holding onto the staff, so he couldn't use his hands to block. His beard had been cut off and couldn't be used as defensive weapon. It was an urgent situation, and he had no choice but to throw away the steel staff and leap back to avoid the kick. A dang sound was heard as one end landed on the floor. Before the other end landed as well, Yang Gu had picked it up in his hands. Ma Guangzu, Nimoxing, Xiaoxiang Zai, and the others cheered. Yang Gu placed the staff on the floor and laughed. "What about it?" Fan Yiweng's face went red and said, "I was careless and fell for your trick. I'm not accepting it." Yang Gu said, "We'll go again." He threw the staff towards Fan Yiweng, who stretched out his hand to catch it. However, when the staff was 2 feet in front of him, it suddenly swept up. Fan Yiweng clutched thin air while Yang Gu flew over and stretched out his arm, taking the staff once again. Ma Guangzu's and the others' cheers were becoming louder. Fan Yiweng's face was now purple. Faweng and Yin Kexi looked at each other and both secretly laughed, praising Yang Gu's cleverness. Yesterday, Zhou Batong had shot out broken spearheads towards them with the force immediately taken back as soon as it shot out. After the spearheads flew out, they suddenly changed direction in midair. Now Yang Gu was copying him. But there were 4 spearheads while there was only 1 staff. The staff was also heavy, and to change the force was not hard. What Yang Gu had done was much easier than what Zhou Batong had done. But Valley Master Gongsun and his disciples did not know what it was about, and all were shocked. Yang Gu laughed. "What? Do you want to go again?" His beard had been cut and weapon taken, but it was all due to cleverness. How could he admit defeat without any protest? He said loudly, "If you use real martial arts to beat me, then I'll admit defeat." Yang Guo chuckled. "In martial arts, ingenuity comes first. Your master's mind is unclear. Of course, the disciples he teaches will be lacking a bit. I'll give you some advice. It's better if you go and find another master." These words were an insult directed at Valley Master Gongsun. Fan Yiweng thought, "My study of martial arts is lacking and I've disgraced my master. If I really can't win, then I'll commit suicide to apologize to master." He clenched his teeth and stood up straight. Yang Guo swept the steel staff towards him and placed it in his hands. He said, "Be careful this time. If you lose your staff again, you won't be able to blame anyone else." Fan Yiweng did not reply. He held the end of the staff tightly with his right and thought, "You'll only be able to take away this staff if you cut off my right arm." Yang Guo called out, "Careful." He flung himself forward until his left hand rested on the end of the staff. The index and middle finger of his right hand went towards his opponent's eyes. At the same time, his left foot had flipped upwards and was holding down the staff's body. This was a stance from the dog-beating stick technique, stealing the staff from the mouth of the tiger. On the previous 2 times that Yang Guo took the staff, though everyone thought his movements were special, they all saw what happened clearly. But this time, even Fan Yiweng didn't know what was going on. He just blinked, and the staff was in the hands of the opponent again. Only Jinlun Faweng, with his profound martial arts knowledge and his experience of the dog-beating stick technique, knew that Yang Guo had used one of the skills of this stick technique. Ma Guangzu called out, "The no beard, long beard. Are you in awe now?" Fan Yiweng called out, "He used witchcraft and it isn't real martial arts. Why should I admit defeat?" Yang Guo laughed. "How will you admit defeat?" Yang Guo returned the staff to him and said, "Fine, we'll go another couple of stances." Fan Yiweng was extremely worried about his clever, empty-handed staff-snatching techniques. He thought, no matter how much advantage I get, when he's at a point where he can hold me off no longer, he'll suddenly use his witchcraft. It would be difficult for me to win. So he said, "I use such a large and long weapon, yet you are empty-handed. Even if I win, you won't take it." Yang Guo laughed. "You're afraid of my empty hands entering 100 blades, kung fu. Fine, I'll use a weapon." He scoured the room, and all he saw were bare walls. There wasn't one single weapon that he could use. However, in the courtyard there were 2 large willow trees. It had many branches and had emerald green leaves hanging down from it. He looked at Xiao Longnu and said, "Since you want to have Liu as a surname, I'll use a willow branch as a weapon." He leapt into the courtyard and broke off an inch-thick branch. It was about 4 feet long. The length and thickness was similar to the beggar clan's dog-beating stick. The branch still had its leaves, which gave the weapon elegance. Xiao Longnu's mind was fluttering all over the place. She had no plans for the future. The longer that Yang Guo was in her sight, the harder it was for her to leave him. She pondered to herself, though separating from Yang Guo was heartbreaking, she had a thought about this 100 times and was able to tolerate it. Right now, he was here in person in front of her very eyes. Every word of his, every action, every smile, and even his anger, all of them moved and stirred her heart. She wanted to go inside and stop seeing and hearing him, but how could she? She lowered her head and didn't say anything, but she was feeling as if 1,000 steel knives were cutting right into her heart. Master Gongsun of the Valley. Fan Yiweng was furious when he saw Yang Guo pick a willow branch as a weapon, treating this as if it was a game and showing no respect towards him at all. He didn't know that within the softness of the willow branch there was also toughness, and that he was going to use the dog-beating stick technique with it. Though it couldn't compare with the bamboo treasure of the beggar clan, it was a lethal weapon that matched any precious sword or saber. Ma Guangzuo said, "Brother Yang, just use my saber." He took the saber out of the sheath and the blade glimmered. It really was a sharp blade. Yang Guo saluted with his arms and laughed. "Thank you. This brother isn't a bad person. It's just a pity that he follows the wrong master. His martial arts are poor, and just a willow branch will be enough to beat him." The willow branch moved forward and attached itself to the steel staff. Once again, Fan Yiweng heard him insult his master. He was thinking that this time it will be a life and death battle. He was not going to hold anything back. He waved the staff around, which generated noises within the air, and started to use his 81 stances of the spilling water staff. The reason behind the name spilling water is that no splash or spill of water can advance. The staff stances were extremely tight and unyielding. At first, the staff was swift and powerful, but after a few stances, he felt that the staff was gradually moving towards one side. The head of the staff felt skewed, and the wind generated by the staff was becoming weaker. Yang Guo was using the dog-beating stick techniques, coil theory. The branch was attached to the staff head, and when the staff moved to the east, the branch moved to the east. When the staff was flipped upwards, the branch followed. But at the final stage, his internal energy forced the staff to pull or push a little more in another direction, and staff head moved out of the control of Fan Yiweng. This particular coil, formulae of the dog-beating stick technique, is derived from the advanced martial art theory of 4 liang moving 1,000 jin, subtle and ingenious. This theory far exceeded the methods of using force against force, or using the current to move the boat. The onlookers were becoming more and more surprised. They could not believe that the very young Yang Guo would possess such ingenious martial arts. They saw that Fan Yiweng's staff was gradually becoming weaker, while Yang Guo's willow branch was becoming stronger. 30 stances later, Fan Yiweng's staff was completely under the control of the willow branch. The more strength Fan Yiweng used, the more uncontrollable the staff became. In the end, he felt as if he had entered an extremely strong cyclone, making him dizzy and dazed, completely losing his bearings. Valley Master Gongsun's hand came down on the stone table and called out, "Yiweng, stand down." The noise created was thunderous. Even Yang Guo's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, "I can't let him slip away." He then shook his arm and changed to the turn formulae. His body froze and his wrist kept on drawing circles, turning Fan Yiweng around like a spinning top. The faster that Yang Guo turned his hands, the faster Fan Yiweng spun. The staff in his hand acted like the handle of a spinning top. Yang Guo said, "If you can stop your feet and don't fall, then you're a man. But if your master can't teach, then the disciples he teaches will trip up in battle." The willow branch lifted upwards, and he leapt backwards over 10 feet. Fan Yiweng's body and mind were not under his control at this moment in time. He was stumbling, and after a few more turns, he would fall to the floor. Valley Master Gongsun suddenly leapt up and palmed the head of the staff in midair and lightly came back down. That move he did appeared to be ordinary and light, but there was a great force behind it. He had slammed the staff 2 feet into the floor and stopped it spinning. Fan Yiweng grabbed the staff tightly and didn't drop, but his body was stumbling and swaying as if he was drunk, his bearings lost for the time being. Xiaoxiangzai, Yin Kexi, and the others looked at Yang Guo, and then looked at Valley Master Gongsun. They now knew that these two people were definitely not easy people to deal with. They planned to watch this great battle from the side without interfering. Ma Guangzuo was the only one who had intended to help Yang Guo. He called out, "Brother Yang, great kung fu. Shorty has lost." Fan Yiweng breathed in deeply and steadied himself. He turned around and suddenly knelt down before his master. He then kowtowed 4 times and without saying a word, suddenly ran towards a stone pillar. Everyone was shocked. No one had predicted that his character was so fiery that after suffering a defeat he would kill himself. Valley Master Gongsun called out, "Oh no!" He leapt up from his table and stretched out his hand to grab his back. But they were too far apart, and Fan Yiweng was very quick. The Valley Master could only grab thin air. Fan Yiweng used all his strength in his effort to run into the pillar, but suddenly he felt his forehead going into something soft. He raised his head and saw Yang Guo with his 2 palms out standing in front of the pillar. He said, "Brother Wang, what is the most painful thing in the world?" When Yang Guo saw Fan Yiweng kneeling down to his master, he knew that he was up to something, so he prepared himself. He was close to Fan Yiweng and managed to get ahead of him, keeping him from the pillar with his palms. Fan Yiweng was stunned. He asked, "What is it?" Yang Guo said mournfully, "I don't know myself, but the pain in my heart is 10 times greater than yours, yet I haven't killed myself. Why are you doing this?" Fan Yiweng said, "You've won. What pain have you got in your heart?" Yang Guo shook his head and said, "What's so important about winning and losing in battle? I don't know how many times I've been beaten in my life. When you tried to kill yourself, your master worried about you. If I tried to kill myself, my master would think nothing of it. That is a deeply hurtful thing." Fan Yiweng still did not understand. Valley Master Gongsun called out sternly, "Yiweng, if you have any more stupid thoughts, then you'll be disobeying the orders of your master. Stand to the side and watch me take care of this scum." Fan Yiweng did not dare to disobey his master and retreated. He stared at Yang Guo. He himself did not know what he felt towards him: anger, loathing, or respect. When Xiao Longnu heard Yang Guo say, "If I tried to kill myself, my master would think nothing of it," her eyes turned red and more tears fell from them. She thought, "If you died, do you think I'd still be able to live?" Valley Master Gongsun had kept his eye on her all along, and now he suddenly saw her tears once again. He was jealous and angry. He clapped his hands 3 times and called out, "Catch that little rat!" He looked upon himself highly, thinking that it was beneath him to fight Yang Guo. The 2 groups of disciples from the side responded. They stood in all directions and suddenly called out. Each group of 4 held a fish net, and they surrounded Yang Guo. Yang Guo and Faweng arrived here with the others, with Faweng being the head of the group. Now that it had come to this, he should come out and make a stand on this issue, but all he did was chuckle and watched from the side. The Valley Master did not know what Faweng was thinking, and assumed that he was laughing at him for not being able to handle Yang Guo, he thought. "I'm going to show what the passionless valley is made out of." He again clapped 3 times. The 16 disciples crossed and changed positions, decreasing the size of the encirclement a few steps. The 4 nets kept on changing positions, from horizontal to vertical, from straight to bent. Yang Guo had seen the disciples in green twice use this fish net formation to catch Zhou Batang. Its variations were indeed profound, and it was extremely hard to defend against. This formation and Quanjin's Big Dipper formation each had its own strong points. He thought, the old urchin with his martial arts was captured by this net formation. How am I going to cope? If he just wanted to escape, and he threw Ma Guangzuo and Fan Yiweng into the nets and took the opportunity to slip away, it would not suit his purpose. My intent is to stay here. Each net was over 10 feet wide, and the handlers were hidden behind it. If he wanted to defeat this formation, he would first have to attack the green disciples who were holding the nets. But as soon as he got too close, he would be captured by the nets. He had no way of making his move. The 16 were pressing closer and closer. Yang Guo didn't know what to do and could only use the ancient tomb's lightness kung fu to dart and fly around in the hall, floating here and dashing there, making it hard for the opponents to predict the direction he was heading. He moved around in all directions, but the 16 disciples did not follow him. They just shanked the encirclement step by step. Yang Guo dashed around as he searched for a way to defeat this formation. He saw that, although the nets were turning around extremely swiftly, the places where they overlapped each other remained covered and didn't show a gap at all. He thought, there's nothing I can do apart from using projectiles to hurt the handlers. He swiveled around once, and there were a handful of jade bee needles in his hand. He waved out his left hand and shot out 7 or 8 jade bee needles at the 4 disciples north of him. He saw that the 4 of them were about to get hit when he suddenly heard light, ding, 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 ding sounds. The jade bee needles were sucked in by the net. The fish net was actually embellished with small magnets. With such a large net, no matter how powerful the enemy's projectile, it would still be blocked by the net. The jade bee needle was 70% gold, 30% steel. Because of this 30%, the jade bee needles were attracted by the net's magnets. Yang Guo thought that this strike would succeed. How would he know that this net actually had so many clever uses? He quickly looked at the Valley Master and knew that it would be of no use to fire out any more projectiles. His right hand went into his pockets and put the needles away. He was just about to think of another way to break the formation when the net from the east side came closer. The leader of the 4 handlers whistled. A gold light flashed across his eyes as the net came over his right shoulder. Yang Guo darted back and was about to escape to the northwest when the nets from the north and west side pressed forwards. Yang Guo cursed, "It's over, ... it's over. I wonder what torture I'll endure after falling into the hands of this Valley Master." Suddenly, he heard one of the handlers of the southern net call out, "Oh no!" Yang Guo turned his head and saw that Gongsun Lu Yi had fallen onto the floor. One of the corners of the net was hanging down loosely. This was the only route out of the formation. Yang Guo didn't give it another thought and darted out of the encirclement. He saw Gongsun Lu Yi had fallen onto the floor, calling out in pain, but she was signaling with her eyes to leave the valley at once. Yang Guo thought to himself, "I'm really touched by her kindness, but if I leave the valley, Gugu would definitely be forced into marrying that old Valley Master. I don't care if I get captured and suffer the pain of 1,000 knives, I'll never leave." He stood in the corner of the room and looked at Xiao Longnu thinking, "I've just experienced great danger, yet you still have no reaction." He saw that Xiao Longnu was still hanging her head and keeping quiet. The Valley Master clapped his hands twice and the nets suddenly dispersed. He turned to Gongsun Lu Yi and said coldly, "What's wrong with you?" Gongsun Lu Yi said, "My leg suddenly had in a painful cramp." Valley Master Gongsun suspected that his daughter had fallen in love with Yang Guo, and as a result gave him an escape route at such a critical moment. But because there were outsiders here, it wasn't appropriate for him to break out in a rage. He laughed coldly and said, "Fine, stand down. Shixir will take her position." Gongsun Lu Yi lowered her head and stood down. A youngster in green responded and stepped forward. This person was only 14 or 15 years of age and had their hair tied in 2 plaits. Gongsun Lu Yi glanced at Yang Guo with grieving in her eyes. Yang Guo felt apologetic and said to himself, "I'm afraid that I won't be able to repay her kindness and compassion in this life." Valley Master Gongsun clapped his hands 4 times, and suddenly the 16 disciples retreated. Yang Guo was shocked, thinking, "Could it be that you admit defeat?" Just as he was wondering about this, he turned his head and saw Gongsun Lu Yi had a fearful expression on her face. She kept on signaling to him with her eyes to leave the valley. From her appearance, it appeared that he was going to face something extremely dangerous. Yang Guo smiled. Instead of running away, he pulled a chair over and sat down. There was a light ringing noise in the inner halls, and the 16 disciples came out again, their hands still holding fish nets. Everyone's expression changed as soon as they saw the nets. The fish nets had been changed, and now it were full of hooks and blades that glimmered. They were extremely sharp. Whoever gets caught in the net would be pierced all over and would have no hope of surviving. Ma Guangzuo called out, "Hey, Valley Master, do you want to lose face? How can you use such an evil thing to treat your guests?" Valley Master Gongsun pointed to Yang Guo and said, "I don't want to hurt you. I've warned you many times to leave the valley, but you chose to stay here and stir up trouble. This is your final warning. Leave quickly." Even someone with Ma Guangzuo's courage shivered at the sight of the nets. When he heard the hooks and knives colliding with each other, he was even more afraid. He stood up and pulled Yang Guo's hand. "Brother Yang, it would be better for us to leave than face this evil thing. Why do you insist on quarreling with him?" Yang Guo looked at Xiao Longnu, waiting to see her response. As soon as Xiao Longnu saw the Valley Master summon out blade and hook-laced nets, she had prepared for death. As soon as Yang Guo gets caught in the nets, she would throw herself on them. They would die together in each other's arms. When she thought about this, she felt peace in her heart, thinking that all the world's pain and suffering will be gone in a flash. Her lips couldn't stop themselves from showing a smile. How would Yang Guo know what she was feeling at this time? He thought about how he was about to face a great danger, yet she could still smile. His heart was in pain, even more deeply than before. In the midst of these feelings of hurt, sorrow, indignation, and approaching danger, he suddenly had an idea and didn't continue on with these thoughts. He went over to Xiao Longnu and bowed lightly. He said, "Gu Gu, Guor is in danger today. I would like to borrow your silk belt and silk gloves." Xiao Longnu was only thinking about the joy of dying with him and nothing else. When she heard these words, she immediately took out a pair of silk gloves and a silk belt to give to him. Yang Guo received them slowly and stared at her. He said, "You're acknowledging who I am now." Xiao Longnu was filled with love and smiled. "My heart acknowledged you long ago." Yang Guo's spirits were greatly lifted and he quivered. "You've decided to leave with me and not marry that Valley Master." Xiao Longnu smiled and nodded. "I've decided to go with you, and of course I won't marry anyone else. Guor, naturally that makes me your wife." When she said, "go with you," she was talking about dying with Yang Guo. Yang Guo didn't understand, so of course the others would not either. But her words of "naturally that makes me your wife" couldn't be clearer. Valley Master Gongsun's face went white, and he hurried the disciples in green to make their move. The 16 disciples set the nets in motion and moved around. After hearing these words of Xiao Longnu's, Yang Guo felt as if he was brought back to life from death. His courage and valor soared. Even if he were facing greater dangers, he wouldn't care. He put on the impregnable silk gloves and held the silk belt in his right hand. The silk belt was sent out with its ringing noises like a white snake. At the end of the silk belt was a gold bell. The belt extended and retracted once. The bell had struck the concealed valley pressure point of one of the disciples in the southern position, and on its way back it struck the crooked pond pressure point of one of the disciples in the eastern position. The concealed valley pressure point is found on the knee. The person could not stay upright and knelt on the floor. The crooked pond pressure point is found on the elbow area. As soon as it was struck, the person's arm became numb and limp. The fish net slipped out of their hands. After those 2 preemptive attacks, the fish net formation immediately broke up. The 4 disciples in the west were shocked, and when they attacked, they were slightly slow. Yang Guo's gold bell turned towards them, and after another 2 strikes, another 2 disciples had their pressure points struck. But at this time, the net from the north was thrown over his head. The knives and hooks were half a foot away from his head. He couldn't use the silk belt to deal with them. Yang Guo's left hand turned upwards and grabbed the fish net. He used its force and flung it away. Although he grabbed hooks and daggers, his hands were covered by the silk gloves and were completely protected. The net was now heading back towards the 4 disciples in green. When these disciples practiced this net formation, the only thing they were afraid of was the enemy slipping through the net. They concentrated on keeping it tight and unyielding. The thought of the net returning over them had never entered their minds. They watched as the glittering knives and hooks came towards their heads. They knew exactly how powerful the net was and called out in alarm as they let go and leapt away. The youngster who replaced Gongsun Lu Yi was weaker than the rest. A dagger eventually pierced his thigh, blood poured, and he fell down, crying out in pain on the floor. Yang Guo laughed. "Little brother, don't be scared, I'm not going to hurt you." His left hand flipped the net away and his right moved the silk belt. Sounds of Kiang Lang Lang and Ding Ling Ling were heard as the hooks and daggers collided with each other with the golden bell ringing. The sounds were extremely crisp. After this, none of the disciples dared to come forward and stood far away by the wall. But because they hadn't received the order to back down by their master, they didn't dare admit defeat and run away. Though they didn't admit defeat, they had already lost. Ma Guangzuo clapped and cheered for a while, but because he was the only one, he felt a bit lonely and glanced over to Faweng saying, "Hey monk, aren't brother Yang Guo's martial arts great? Why aren't you cheering?" Faweng laughed and said, "His skills are great, extremely good, but there's no need to call out like that." Ma Guangzuo asked, "Why?" Faweng saw that the Valley Master was frowning and was now making his way towards the center of the hall slowly. Faweng concentrated on him and ignored Ma Guangzuo. When Valley Master Gongsun heard Xiao Longnu say, "Naturally, that makes me your wife," he knew that his sweet dream of the past 2 weeks had come to an end. Though he was disappointed and angry, he thought, "Even if I can't have your heart, I'm going to have you. I'll kill that bastard in one palm, and I don't care what your feelings towards me will be. After a time, your heart will eventually return to me." Yang Guo saw that his eyebrows were rising higher and higher to a point where his brows and eyes looked like they were standing straight up. He didn't know what school of martial arts this was from and became slightly afraid. His right hand lifted the silk belt and his left clutched the net. He was completely prepared. He knew that this battle would decide the life and death of he and Xiao Longnu. He didn't dare to allow one strand of carelessness in his actions. Valley Master Gongsun circled around Yang Guo slowly. Yang Guo, too, turned around slowly on the floor. He didn't dare to gaze away from him. He saw that he was still delaying making his move and knew that when he attacked, it will be extremely swift and vicious. All he saw was him raising his hands, leveling them 3 times in front of him, and then his hands came together. The sound generated was as if gold and iron had collided. Yang Guo's heart skipped a beat and he moved back a step. Valley Master Gongsun suddenly stretched out his right arm and grabbed the fish net, pulling it away to one side. Yang Guo felt that his pull had great force behind it. His fingers ached and he could only let go. Valley Master Gongsun threw the net to the 4 disciples and shouted, "Stand down!" After having the net snatched away, Yang Guo didn't allow him to make the first move again. The silk belt shot out and the gold bell shook, attacking the opponent's large bone and celestial tripod pressure points on the shoulder and neck. Valley Master Gongsun's chest was open with his arms stretched out to the side, but Yang Guo didn't dare to attack the major pressure points on his chest rashly. He first attacked the smaller pressure points on his body to test him out. Valley Master Gongsun's martial arts were actually from a different school of martial arts. He ignored the pressure point attacks of the bell and stretched out his right arm to grab Yang Guo's arm. A ding-ding sound was heard as the large bone and celestial tripod pressure points were struck, but he didn't feel it. A hoo sound was heard as the grab turned into a palm, striking towards Yang Guo's chest on the left side. Yang Guo was alarmed and quickly leaned his body to the side. Luckily for him, his lightness kung fu was excellent, and he avoided this sudden palm from his opponent. Yang Guo had once heard the great fighters of Wulin, Ouyang Feng, Hong Qigong, and Huang Yaoshi talk about martial arts, and knew that when someone has reached advanced levels of internal energy that, at the time the opponent strikes their pressure points, they were able to seal off themselves and negate the attack, but they will still show some effects of their pressure points being attacked. Ouyang Feng's martial arts could lead to reversal of the veins and the major pressure points over one's body to change position. When someone sees his legs above his head, they would be able to tell immediately. But the enemy he is facing now actually made no response to his pressure points being struck. It was as if he didn't have any pressure points on his body. This type of martial arts is rarely seen or heard of. He couldn't stop some fear from creeping into his heart. He saw his palms had turned over and there seemed to be black air within the palms. While it was coming towards him, the wind was forceful and pressing. He didn't dare to receive it head-on. He used the silk belt to tangle with him while his left hand protected the vital areas of his body. Soon, they had exchanged over 10 stances. Yang Guo had put all his concentration into fighting him. Suddenly, he saw the left palm of his opponent coming lightly towards his chest. It appeared to be a soft palm, but it was the opposite. It was actually a palm from the same set of palm skills as Wan Yinping's iron palm. He quickly leaped away a couple of feet. When the Valley Master's palm met thin air, he didn't take it back and the palm kept on going forward another 2 feet. He moved quickly and the palm was now in front of Yang Guo. Normally, when a person fires out a punch or sends out a palm, the strength originates from the arm. They would pull back their arm and send out the attack. But the attack Valley Master had just used now originated from his body. His hand and palm didn't move. He was actually using the force from his body to attack the opponent. Although the force from the body is greater than that from the arm, using it to send out a palm or punch will result in slower attacks. But Valley Master Gongsun's palm was both fierce and swift. Yang Guo wanted to lean his body to the side to avoid the palm, but there was no time. He could only send out his left palm and meet it head-on. A pie sound was generated as the palms collided. Yang Guo was jolted back 3 steps while the Valley Master stood his ground with his body swaying a little. Standing there without moving, the Valley Master appeared to have the upper hand. But in actual fact, the power from Yang Guo's palm had caused a throbbing pain in the side of his body. He was extremely shocked. I'd used all my power behind that iron palm, but that punk was still actually able to receive it. If we carry on like this, I may not be able to kill him. If we fight to a draw, I won't be able to say anything. He clapped his hands twice. The sounds were ear-piercingly loud. He said, "The one named Yang, I have been merciful in that palm, do you know that?" If this were a normal martial arts duel, and if Yang Guo continued fighting, he would definitely lose. When the Valley Master said these words, he should have admitted that his martial arts were weaker. But today, he knew that the opponent would never allow him and Xiao Longnu to leave in peace. He had no other option but to engage in a fight to the death. Yang Guo still had his ridiculing and derisory nature towards his opponents, and Xiao Longnu had returned to him now. His heart was overflowing with joy. He laughed and said, "If you kill me, how can my Gugu marry you? If you don't kill me, my Gugu still would not marry you. What mercy is there? It's just that you couldn't do anything to me." Yang Guo was too kind in his surmising of his opponent's thoughts. The Valley Master would love nothing more than to kill him in one stroke to avoid him causing any problems in the future. Even if it caused Xiao Longnu to hate and loathe him, he couldn't have cared less. He couldn't do anything to Yang Guo because his palms couldn't do anything to him. He turned towards his daughter and said, "Take out my weapons." Gongsun Lu-yi delayed and didn't reply. Valley Master Gongsun shouted, "Didn't you hear?" Gongsun Lu-yi went pale and could only reply, "Yes." She then left for the inner halls. Yang Guo looked at the expression of the two and thought, "I couldn't cope when he was empty-handed. Now that he's going to use some weird weapon, what chance have I got? If we don't leave now, when should we leave?" He went over to Xiao Longnu and stretched out his hand, softly saying, "Gugu, let's leave." Valley Master Gongsun gathered energy in his hands. As soon as Xiao Longnu stands and takes Yang Guo's hand, he'll immediately throw himself forward and attack Yang Guo's spine viciously with the iron palm. He made his decision and thought, "I don't care if Sister Liu hates me. I'm going to kill that punk. If Sister Liu leaves with him, what joy will I have left for the next half of my life?" But Xiao Longnu did not stand up, just saying calmly, "Of course I'll go with you. But the Valley Master did save my life. We need to explain everything to him and ask for his forgiveness." Yang Guo was flustered and thought, "Gugu doesn't know anything. Do you think he's going to forgive us just like that because you've explained everything to him?" When Yang Guo heard these gentle, loving words and saw her affectionate expression, he felt that if even the sky was falling down on him, he wouldn't care. How could he still be thinking about trying to escape? He said, "Gugu, you're not angry with me?" Xiao Longnu smiled and said, "Why should I be angry with you? I've never been angry with you. Turn around." Yang Guo listened to her and turned around but didn't know what she wanted to do. Xiao Longnu took out a little bag with string and needles in them. She threaded the needle and measured the hole that Fan Yiweng had torn on the back of his garment. She sighed and said, "Over these past few days, I've wanted to make a new gown for you. But when I thought about how I'll never see you again, I thought, what's the point? I could never have dreamed that you would find your way here." The pain and grief in her words turned to joy and delight as she said this. She picked up a pair of small scissors and cut a piece of fabric from the corner of her gown. She slowly helped him repair his garment. When the two lived in the tomb, whenever Yang Guo's clothes were torn or ripped, Xiao Longnu would call him over and help him repair them just like this. Over the years, this happened countless times. The two of them did not care about life and death anymore. Though they were under the stares of many people in the hall, the two of them acted as if no one was there and did as they used to when they lived with each other in the ancient tomb. Yang Guo was filled with boundless joy and hot tears rolled down from his eyes. He choked. "Gu, just now I made you throw up blood. It was my fault." Xiao Longnu smiled. "It's not your fault. You know, I had this kind of illness long ago. I haven't seen you for a few days and your martial arts have advanced so much. You threw up blood as well just now. Are you all right?" Yang Guo laughed. "It's nothing. I've got more than enough blood to spare." Xiao Longnu smiled. "You love to talk nonsense." Though the words of the two were ordinary and plain, everyone could hear the love that the two had for each other and that the two had an extremely deep relationship. Faweng and the others looked at each other. Valley Master Gongsun was shocked and jealous. He stood there stunned, not knowing what to do. Yang Guo said, "I've met some interesting people over the last few days. Gu, guess where I got my pair of large scissors from?" Xiao Longnu said, "I was wondering about that. It's like you knew that there was a long, bearded old man here long ago, so you prepared a large pair of scissors to cut off his beard. You really are naughty. He's taken years to grow that beard and you cut it off just like that. Isn't it a pity?" She gave a laugh as her bright eyes sparkled. Her appearance was enchanting. Valley Master could not endure this any longer. He stretched out his hand towards Yang Guo's chest and shouted, "Bastard, you're too disrespectful." Yang Guo didn't block it and said, "There's no need to rush. I'll continue the fight once Gu finishes repairing my garment." Valley Master Gongsun's fingers were just a few inches away from his chest. He had the status of being a master, and even though he was furious, it would be inappropriate for him to attack him like this. Suddenly he heard Gongsun Lu-yi call out from behind, "Father, the weapons are here." He didn't turn around as he moved backwards a few feet and took the weapons. Yang Guo just took one look at the strange weapons before continuing, "Gu, a few days ago I met a woman. She told me who my father's murderer was." Xiao Longnu's heart trembled and asked, "Who is it?" Yang Guo bit down on his teeth and said with hatred, "You could never have guessed who they were, and all along I've been thinking that they've been treating me extremely well." Xiao Longnu said, They've been treating you extremely well?" Yang Guo said, "Yes, they are." A clear buzzing sound that resonated without stop was heard. It was Valley Master Gongsun's black sword colliding with his golden saber. His wrist turned, and 3 consecutive swings that sliced through the air were unleashed. One aimed towards Yang Guo's head, one aimed at the left side of Yang Guo's neck, and other at the right side of Yang Guo's neck. They all passed within half an inch of his flesh. The Valley Master was looking after his status. Since the enemy did not make a move to block these attacks, he couldn't land them, but the accuracy of these attacks was unnerving. Xiao Longnu said, "I've finished." She patted him on the back. Yang Guo turned around and smiled. He then made his way towards the center of the hall with the silk belt. Valley Master Gongsun's yin-yang twin blades, fishnet formation, and closure of pressure points were all passed down from his ancestors. But because they have lived in the valley in seclusion for all these years and haven't made any contact with outsiders for hundreds of years, these 3 extraordinary martial arts were unknown to the outside world. Another reason for its seclusion was that there were great weaknesses within all 3 sets of these martial arts. If a skilled martial artist discovers the weakness, the user would not be able to avoid death. His ancestors had passed down a strict rule. Members of the valley were forbidden to go out and get involved in Jianghu affairs for this reason. Over 20 years ago, Valley Master Gongsun also learned martial arts of the Iron Palm School. Although the person who taught him wasn't some extraordinary martial artist, their knowledge was vast. Their thoughts were careful and attentive. This person helped him cover up numerous holes in his family's martial arts. In particular, a lot of changes were made to the stances of the yin-yang twin blades. This person said to him, "This set of saber and sword technique is now greatly improved. Even if your opponent is extremely clever, they will not be able to see through the trappings of this technique within 50 stances. But once your saber and sword is unleashed, how can your opponent withstand 50 stances of it?" When he saw Yang Guo motioning the silk belt to battle him, he called out, "Watch out for the sword!" The black sword quivered and it pierced towards Yang Guo's chest. But the sword did not go straight towards his chest. Instead, it circled around in front of him. Yang Guo did not know where the sword was aiming, and in shock, he leapt backwards. Valley Master Gongsun's attacks were extremely fast. When Yang Guo leapt back, the circles of the sword were thrust towards him. The circles were becoming bigger and bigger. At first, it only circled around the chest area, but afterwards it covered the lower abdomen, and after a few more stances, the encirclement gradually reached his neck. All the vital points between the neck and the lower abdomen of Yang Guo were covered by the sword tip. Faweng, Yin Kexi, Xiaoxiang Zai, and the others has never seen such a sword play where circling of the sword is used to press the opponent. They were shocked. As soon as Valley Master Gongsun unleashed a stance, Yang Guo would immediately dart away. He drew 10 circles with his sword, and each time, Yang Guo backed away and had no way to attack. Yang Guo saw that the enemy's sword stances were becoming swifter and more intense, while the jagged saber in his left hand had still to be unleashed. When he actually uses it, he would probably have no chance at all. There wasn't time for any more thoughts, and he leapt to the left while motioning the silk belt. A ringing ding-ling-ling, and the gold bell went flying towards the opponent's left eye. Valley Master Gongsun slanted his head to dodge the attack and stopped his attack. Yang Guo was delighted. He quickly motioned the silk belt and wrapped it around his right leg. He was about to pull backwards when Valley Master Gongsun's sword drew downwards and slashed the belt in two. The black sword was actually an extremely sharp weapon. Everyone gave an "ah" sound just in time to hear the gust of a fierce wind. Valley Master Gongsun had chopped down with his jagged saber towards Yang Guo. Yang Guo rolled on the floor. A dang sound was heard which echoed throughout the room. Yang Guo had actually picked up Fan Yiweng's steel staff to block the attack, and the saber collided with it. Both of their arms trembled and were slightly numb. Valley Master Gongsun was shocked. "This punk really is good. He is actually able to receive 10 of my stances." The saber chopped across and the sword pierced diagonally. A saber should take ferociousness and hardness as its aim, a sword swiftness and lightness. The two weapons were complete opposites. To use both a saber and sword at the same time is impossible. But Valley Master Gongsun's attacks were becoming more and more pressing, and the sword and saber techniques were both clearly distinguished. There was softness and hardness, yin and yang. This really was a rarely seen great skill of the Wulin world. Yang Guo gave out a call and waved the steel staff. He used the dog-beating stick techniques, seal, formula, guarding his body tightly. Valley Master Gongsun wasn't actually able to attack him with his twin blades as he did this, but the dog-beating stick technique has subtlety and variation as its main aim. A light and fine bamboo stick can be used as pleased, but the heavy and long staff in his hand cannot. After a few more stances, he felt that variation of the stances gradually became ineffective. Valley Master Gongsun suddenly found a weakness. The gold saber lifted up and the black sword drew down. A caw sound was heard as the black sword cut the steel staff in half. Yang Guo called out, "What luck! Just when I was thinking that this staff is too heavy." A great increase in the effectiveness of the stances could be seen when Yang Guo continued using this slashed half-staff. Valley Master Gongsun gave a hug grunt and said, "We'll see whether it's lucky or not." The saber in his left hand chopped forward. The saber slashed down towards Yang Guo's head. This stance was rather slow and sluggish. All Yang Guo had to do was to slant his body to the side a little, and he would be able to avoid it easily. However, the circles from the black sword were covering all his paths, leaving him with no way to escape. Yang Guo could only raise his broken staff and use a stance of lifting the sky with one hand to meet this stance head-on. A loud dang sound was heard as the two weapons collided. Sparks flew everywhere as Yang Guo felt his arms go numb. Valley Master Gongsun continued the attack. He used the same stance as before. Yang Guo was knowledgeable in martial arts, and he was extremely quick-witted in battle, yet he wasn't actually able to neutralize such a clumsy stance. There was no other choice for him but to meet this stance in the same way again. Yang Guo's arms ached even more after this second collision. He knew that if this continued, the tendons in his arm would suffer great damage. Before he finished his thoughts, the Valley Master had sent down a third chop. After a few more chops, the saber had hacked a groove on the staff, and the joints in Yang Guo's right hand started to bleed. Valley Master Gongsun saw that even in the face of danger, Yang Guo still carried his smile. The saber in his left hand chopped down, and he thrust the black sword suddenly towards his lower abdomen. Yang Guo had been forced back into the corner of the hall. When he saw the sword tip coming, he stretched out his hand to block it. When the sword arrived at his palm, the blade bent in an arc and flicked away. Xiao Longnu's silk gloves were very tough. Even though the black sword was extremely sharp, it still couldn't harm him. Yang Guo knew that with the gloves he would not have to fear the black sword. He turned his palm around and suddenly stretched out his hand to grab the sword, wanting to do the same thing as Xiao Longnu did when she snapped Hao Datung's sword. But he didn't know that Valley Master Gongsun would flick his wrist lightly and curve his sword around his hand, piercing him in the forearm. Blood flowed out of the wound. Yang Guo was shocked and quickly leapt back. Valley Master Gongsun did not continue the attack, and instead chuckled a few times before slowly advancing again. If Valley Master Gongsun had either the jagged saber or black sword only, Yang Guo would definitely have a way to defend against him. But as the soft and hard blades were used simultaneously against him, he was forced on the back foot, struggling against the attacks. Faweng, Yin Kexi, Xiaoxiangzai, and Nimoxing were all thinking. The Valley Master's yin-yang twin blades is extremely swift, powerful, and vicious. But at the same time, that kid is pretty clever, thinking of so many ways to avoid all these vicious stances. Valley Master Gongsun chopped with his saber and thrust with his sword. Yang Guo was struck in the shoulder and blood trickled over his gown. Valley Master Gongsun said in a deep voice, "Are you in awe of me yet?" Yang Guo smiled and said, "You came into battle with me having a huge advantage, and here you opening your mouth asking whether I'm in awe of you or not. Ha ha, Valley Master Gongsun, how come you don't save face?" The Valley Master took in his sword and saber and then asked, "Please tell me what advantage I have." Yang Guo said, "You're using customized weapons. One is a strange saber, the other is an extraordinary sword. Even if I searched all over the world, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to find such weapons. Isn't that true?" The Valley Master replied, "So what? Your gloves and silk belt aren't ordinary either." Yang Guo threw the broken staff onto the floor and laughed. "This belongs to your bearded disciple." He took off the gloves and picked up the 2 pieces of silk belt. Yang Guo threw them over to Xiao Longnu and said, "These belong to my Gu. He cleaned off the dust on his body, not taking any notice of the bleeding wounds that he had. He laughed. "I came to your valley empty-handed. What ill intent did I have? If you want to kill me, then kill. Why must you talk so much?" Valley Master Gongsun saw that he had a leisurely air about him. His face and eyes were elegant and handsome, and even with all those wounds on him, he talked and laughed at ease as if nothing had happened. He couldn't help but feel inferior to him and thought, "I cannot compare with this person. If I let him live, Sister Liu's heart will remain his." So he said, "Fine." He thrust the sword forwards towards his chest. Yang Guo had already decided, "Since I can't beat him, then I'll let him kill me." When he saw the sword coming towards him, he ignored it and instead looked over at Xiao Longnu, thinking, "I will die happy with Gu in my eyes." He saw Xiao Longnu's face carrying a sweet smile and getting closer step by step. Their eyes were locked on each other, both of them ignoring the black sword of Valley Master Gongsun. Valley Master Gongsun had not met Yang Guo before. What feud has he got with him? The only reason he's trying to kill him is because of Xiao Longnu, so when he sent out this sword, he couldn't help but glance over at Xiao Longnu. When he saw her, his heart immediately filled with jealousy. He saw her staring at Yang Guo lovingly, and when he looked over at Yang Guo, he was doing the exact same thing toward her. The black sword had reached Yang Guo, and all that was needed was a bit of force from his arms, and it would pierce into Yang Guo's chest. But there was no fear or concern on Xiao Longnu's face. Yang Guo also made no attempt to block this attack. The two of them stared madly at each other. Their thoughts were one. They had long forgotten about life and death. Valley Master Gongsun broke out in a great rage, thinking to himself, "If I kill him now, Sister Liu will immediately kill herself because of her love for him. I need to think of a way to force her to marry me. Once I've bedded her, there will be plenty of time to kill that punk." He called out, "Sister Liu, do you want me to kill him or spare him?" When Xiao Longnu was staring at Yang Guo, she had not thought about Valley Master Gongsun. Only after hearing this sudden call did she wake up and said alarmed, "Move the sword away. Why are you pointing your sword at his chest?" Valley Master Gongsun chuckled. "It's not difficult to stop the sword. If you want him to live, just tell him to leave the valley immediately and let us get married." Before Yang Guo came, she had decided to never see him again. She didn't care if she would live the rest of her life in grief and pain. All she hoped for was that he would be safe and happy. But now that they've reunited, how could she still agree to marry the Valley Master? For the past few days, she knew that she couldn't carry out the decision that she had made and would rather die than marry someone else. So she turned her head to the Valley Master and said, "Mr. Gongsun, thank you for saving my life, but I cannot marry you." The Valley Master knew the reasons but still asked, "Why?" Xiao Longnu stood with Yang Guo and held his arm, smiling. "I have decided to marry him and spend the rest of my life with him, could you not tell?" The Valley Master shook his head a few times and then said, "If you hadn't promised me that day, why would I do this and try to force you? You promised with your own lips that it was what you wanted." Xiao Longnu said, "That is correct, but I cannot give him up. We need to go now, please forgive us." She pulled Yang Guo's hand and headed for the door. Valley Master Gongsun quickly moved to block the exit and hissed, "The only way you'll leave the valley is over my dead body." Xiao Longnu said, "I'm indebted to you for saving my life. How can I try to harm you? Anyway, your martial arts are too strong for me." As she talked, she tore off a piece of fabric from her gown and helped Yang Guo tie up his wounds. Jinlun Faowing suddenly said loudly, "Valley Master Gongsun, you better let them leave." The Valley Master gave a hug grunt. His face was serious and he didn't reply. Faowing continued, "If those two joined up with their swords, how would your gold saber and black sword be able to handle them? Just do them a favor and let them go." He'd suffered the greatest humiliation in his life after losing to Yang Guo and Xiao Longnu's pure heart of jade maiden sword. Ever since then, he'd been thinking of a way to defeat this swordplay, but was unable to. Now he had seen how powerful the yin-yang blades of the Valley Master were. It wasn't below the martial arts of his golden wheel. So he came out with these words to anger him, hoping to make the three go into battle. Firstly, he could get a chance to take a look at Yang Guo's and Xiao Longnu's swordplay again and look for its weakness so he can avenge this defeat. Secondly, he hoped that the three would destroy each other. In actual fact, if Faowing hadn't come out with these words to anger the Valley Master, he would never agree to let Xiao Longnu leave the valley with Yang Guo. He stared angrily at Faowing and thought, "You dare to say such words in front of my face? I haven't got time for you now, but I'll remember this for the future." He turned his head towards Xiao Longnu and clenched his teeth as he thought, "Your heart doesn't belong to me, but your body will. You won't agree to marry me when you're alive, then I'm still going to marry you even when you're dead." At first, he had planned to use Yang Guo's life to force Xiao Longnu to submit to him. But when he saw that the two weren't afraid of death, he thought that even if they die together, he wouldn't let them out of the valley. His eyebrows rose again, and an air of death gradually showed up on his face. He suddenly heard Ma Guangzhuo call out, "Hey, old man Gongsun, she said that she doesn't want to marry you. Why are you still blocking her way? Don't you want to save face?" Ma Guangzhuo said loudly, "All he's got is water and vegetables. What's so great about that? If I were that girl, I would never marry him. With her beauty, she can be the empress. Why should she stay with this cruel and evil old man for the rest of her life, eating nothing but green vegetables and tofu? Even if one didn't get annoyed to death, they'd be bored to death." Xiao Longnu turned her head and said gently, "Master Ma, Mr. Gongsun saved my life and I'm indebted to him. I'll always be grateful for his kindness." Ma Guangzhuo called out, "Fine, old man Gongsun, if you want to show that you're a kind and benevolent person, then why don't you let the two of them marry and consummate the marriage today? If you saved a girl because you wanted to bed her, then doesn't that put you in the same class as those raping lowlife bandits?" He was a straightforward man and says what comes into his mind. His words were all hard on the ears, but they were hard to refute. Valley Master Gongsun's intent to kill was stirred. He decided that he'll take care of all the outsiders in one go. He didn't make a move and said dryly, "My passionless valley may not be some extraordinary place, but if everyone here comes and goes as they please, then the one named Gongsun may appear to be a bit too humble in the eyes of others." "Miss Liu," Xiao Longnu showed a smile and said, "I lied to you when I said my surname is Liu. My surname is Long. I named myself Liu because he's named Yang." Valley Master Gongsun felt even more jealous. He could only pretend that he didn't hear those words and said, "Miss Liu, this." Before he finished, Ma Guangzhuo interrupted. "This girl is named Long. Why are you calling her Miss Liu?" Xiao Longnu said. "Mr. Gongsun is used to calling me that. The blame is on me for lying to him in the first place. He can call me whatever he likes." Valley Master Gongsun ignored these words and continued. "Miss Liu, all the one named Yang has to do is beat my yin-yang twin blades, and I'll allow him to leave the valley safely. Our personal affairs will be severed of their own accord. It'll have nothing to do with other people." After all this, he still wanted to rely on his martial arts to force Xiao Longnu to stay. Xiao Longnu sighed and said, "Mr. Gongsun, I did not want to fight you, but he can't beat you on his own. I must help him." Valley Master Gongsun's eyebrows became a straight line. He said, "Aren't you afraid of what happened before, you throwing up blood? It'll happen again." Xiao Longnu felt great remorse towards Valley Master Gongsun and said, "We haven't any weapons. If we fight you empty-handed, then we'll definitely lose. You're a great and generous man. Just let us go." Jinlun Fawing interrupted. "Valley Master Gongsun, you've got everything here in this valley. Don't tell me you haven't even got 2 swords. But I'd better warn you first. Once those 2 join up together, your life will be endangered." Valley Master Gongsun pointed to the western path and said, "The 3rd room over there is the sword room. Just pick whatever weapon you want. But I'm afraid even these guests may not have the kind of weapons that I've hidden away." He then laughed coldly. Yang Guo and Xiao Longnu looked at each other and both thought, "I will die willingly if we're able to spend time alone with each other away from other people before then." They held each other's hand and headed west, leaving through the side door. They passed 2 rooms and arrived at the 3rd. Xiao Longnu's eyes never left Yang Guo's face. When she saw the doors were closed, she didn't give it any thought and pushed it open. She was just about to step into the room when Yang Guo suddenly thought of something and urgently pulled her back. He said, "Careful." Xiao Longnu said, "Of what?" Yang Guo kept his left foot outside the room and placed his right foot into the room, quickly touching the floor before taking it back outside. Nothing happened. Xiao Longnu said, "You're afraid that the Valley Master would leave a trap for us. He's a very kind person. He would never do such a thing." As soon as she finished saying this, a sudden kai-kai sound was heard. There was a flash of light in front of them as 8 sharp swords shot out all around the door frame, crossing over horizontally and vertically. If someone had stepped into the room at that time, even if your martial arts were supremely high, getting your body pierced several times over by the swords would be difficult to avoid. Xiao Longnu let out a deep breath and said, "Gyur, this Valley Master is so evil. I've really judged him wrongly. We don't need to fight him. Let's just leave." Suddenly someone said from behind, "Our master invites you inside to pick a sword." The 2 turned around and saw 8 disciples with a fish net blocking their way. The Valley Master was wary of the 2 escaping together, so he sent these disciples to cut off their escape routes. Xiao Longnu's silk belt had been cut in half by the black sword. She was now unable to use it to strike their pressure points from far away as Yang Guo did before. Xiao Longnu said to Yang Guo, "What other traps has this room got?" Yang Guo held her hands and said, "Gu Gu, we're reunited now. What other worries have you got? Even if we get pierced by 10,000 swords, it wouldn't matter. We'll see each other again in death." Xiao Longnu's heart, too, was overflowing with love. The 2 entered the sword room together. The wall, tables, shelves, and cupboards were all lined up with sharp weapons of various shapes. There were antique swords, some that had 7-foot-long blades and others that were quite short. There were iron and steel ones. A few had an overpowering glow. The 2's eyes were blinded for a second. Xiao Longnu stared at Yang Guo for a while and then suddenly threw herself into his arms. Yang Guo held her tightly and kissed her on the lips. Both Xiao Longnu's heart and soul were completely enchanted by that kiss. She stretched out her arms to embrace him around his neck. Suddenly the door opened, and a disciple in green entered who said sternly, "Our master ordered that as soon as you've picked your weapon, immediately leave. You cannot waste time." Yang Guo's face went red and he removed her arms. But Xiao Longnu thought that there was nothing wrong with hugging and kissing her loved one. However, there was someone disturbing them which made it difficult for her to feel comfortable. So she gave a sigh and said softly, "Gyur, once we've beaten that Valley Master, kiss me like that again." Yang Guo smiled and nodded. He stretched out his left arm and put it around her waist and said, "There isn't enough time in this life for our kisses. Just pick a weapon." Xiao Longnu said, "It appears that these weapons are indeed all special. There isn't one poor weapon. We haven't got nearly as many in our ancient tomb." She glanced over the weapons on the wall, wanting to pick out a pair of swords that were the same in all ways and most effective for her and Yang Gu to use against Valley Master Gongsun. But after searching for a while, she saw that all the swords were different. She was searching for a weapon and asking a question at the same time. When we were about to enter the room, you knew that there would be booby traps. How did you know? Yang Gu said. I guessed from the eyes and expression of the Valley Master. He wanted to marry you, but when he heard that you were going to help me fight him, he immediately thought about killing you. I didn't believe for a second that someone with his character would allow us to pick out weapons out of the kindness of his heart. Xiao Longnu gave another sigh and said, Will we be able to beat him with our pure heart of jade maiden sword? Yang Gu said, Though his martial arts are strong, he's not better than Jinlun Fawang. The two of us were able to beat Jinlun Fawang. I assume that we'll be able to beat him. Xiao Longnu said, Yes, the reason why Fawang kept on trying to force him to fight us is because he wanted to see us in danger. Yang Gu smiled. People can have evil thoughts. Now you've learned a bit about this. He then said immediately, I'm just worried about your health, you've just thrown up blood. Xiao Longnu's dimples from her smile were like a flower, she said. You know that whenever I'm angry or upset I throw up blood. Now that I'm extremely happy, this little internal injury isn't anything to me. You threw up blood too, is it serious? Yang Gu said, I'm fine as long as I can see you. Xiao Longnu said tenderly, That's how I feel too. She paused and then continued, You've made much progress in your martial arts recently, and we were able to beat Fawang back then. When Yang Gu heard these words, he too felt great confidence about this battle. He held her hand and said, I want you to promise me something, will you? Xiao Longnu said tenderly, Why is there a need to ask me? I haven't been your master since long ago, I'm your wife. I'll listen to whatever you say. Yang Gu said, That's great, I didn't know. Xiao Longnu said, How can I still be your master after what happened that night on Mount Zhongnan when you and I were that intimate? Though you didn't want to marry me, in my heart I was already your wife. Yang Gu did not know exactly what happened that night. Maybe the reason for suddenly bringing this up again is because she's emotional, he thought. My father, Yang Feng, was teaching me martial arts that day. He sealed your pressure point, but I wasn't intimate with you. But when he heard the tenderness and love in her words, he was completely enchanted and couldn't say anything. Yang Gu stroked her hair and said, Once we beat that Valley Master, we'll immediately go back to the tomb. No matter what happens, you cannot leave my side. Xiao Longnu lifted her head and looked into his eyes. She said, Do you think that I have thoughts of leaving you? Do you think that the pain and suffering I'll experience if I part from you won't be as great as yours? Of course, I'll promise you, I'll never leave you even if the sky falls down. Yang Gu was delighted. He was about to say something when the disciple in green who was watching them said loudly, Have you picked your weapons? Xiao Longnu smiled and said, Let's just get it over with. She turned her head to look for a pair of swords when the western wall caught her eye. She was startled. The wall had signs of being set alight, and the chairs and tables near it were also burned. Yang Gu laughed. The old urchin had broken into here previously and set this place alight. That's his handiwork. He then saw two sheaths behind a painting in the corner. He thought, those two swords were hidden originally by that painting. It's only because of the old urchin's fire burning that painting that enables me to see them now. Those two swords must be extremely precious to have been hidden away like that. He went over to the wall and took the swords down. He gave one to Xiao Longnu and unsheathed the sword that was in his hand. Xiao Longnu unsheathed her sword too. Both of them felt a chill as soon as the blades were drawn out. They saw that his sword was black and didn't have any shine to it, like a piece of black wood. Her sword was the exact same as Yang Gu's. When the two swords lined up, the room was filled with a cold air. The swords had no sharp points. The tips of the swords were round and blunt, and they looked like a thin wooden whip. Yang Gu turned the sword over and saw the word gentleman carved on it. He looked over at Xiao Longnu's sword and saw the word lady. Originally, Yang Gu did not like the form of this sword, but he loved the matching names. He looked at Xiao Longnu to see what she thought. Xiao Longnu said happily, This sword has no sharp points. This is just right for dueling with the Valley Master. He saved my life before. I don't want to hurt him. Yang Gu laughed. The names of the swords are gentleman and lady. I'm not worthy of the name. If gentleman was changed to vagrant, it'd be much better for me to use. He then tested out the sword with two thrusts into the air and felt that the weight was perfect and the sword extremely agile. He said, Fine, we'll use these two swords. Xiao Longnu returned her sword into its sheath. and was about to leave the room when she saw some extremely beautiful flowers in a vase on the table. But it wasn't arranged properly, so she decided to fix it up. Yang Guo called out, "No, you can't touch them." But it was too late. Xiao Longnu's finger had been pierced by the thorns of the flowers. She turned her head back startled, asking, "Why?" Yang Guo said, "Those are passion flowers. You've been living here in the valley for a few days now. Don't you recognize them?" Xiao Longnu sucked her finger and shook her head. She said, "I don't recognize them. Passion flower. What kind of flower is it?" Yang Guo was about to explain, but the crowd of disciples kept on hurrying them, so they left the room and returned to the hall. Valley Master Gongsun had been waiting impatiently. He stared angrily at his disciples, blaming them for being useless and allowing the two of them to waste time. All of the disciples were terrified and changed color. Valley Master Gongsun waited for the two to come near before saying, "Miss Liu, you've picked your weapon." Xiao Longnu took out the lady sword and nodded her head, saying, "We'll use this pair of blunt swords to fight you. We don't dare to fight a life and death duel with the Valley Master, but just until a clear victor can be seen, how about that?" The Valley Master's heart trembled and said sternly, "Who told you to pick those swords?" His gaze swept across to Gongsun Lu Yi and then back to Xiao Longnu. Xiao Longnu felt slightly surprised and said, "No one told us to pick them. If we can't use them, we'll go and change them." The Valley Master stared angrily at Yang Guo and said, "If I let you change your weapons, how long will it take? Half a day. There's no need to change, just start." Xiao Longnu said, "Valley Master Gongsun, let's make things clear before we start. If we fight one-on-one, neither of us are a match for you. We've got an advantage fighting you two against one. We don't really want to fight you and we're not competing with you. All you've got to do is allow us to leave and we'll admit defeat and thank you." The Valley Master chuckled and said, "If you beat my yin-yang twin blades, then I'll let you treat me any way you want. If I win, you have to marry me." Xiao Longnu gave an unperturbed smile and said, "If we lose, we'll just die here in this valley." Valley Master Gongsun did not say anything more. The golden saber in his left hand waved out towards Yang Guo. Yang Guo raised his sword and used a stance of the white crane's bright wing, a stance of Quanjin swordplay. Valley Master Gongsun thought, "Though this stance is tight and careful, it's just ordinary and steady." His right sword headed towards Yang Guo's shoulder, actually winding past Xiao Longnu. Both the sword and saber were aiming for Yang Guo. Yang Guo concentrated on his opponent and guarded his body tightly as he received 3 stances. Xiao Longnu waited for the Valley Master to unleash his 3 stances before she raised her sword. The Valley Master did not use his sword or saber to block her sword stances. Only in urgent situations did he use the black sword to repel her attacks. He showed signs of allowance in his stances. After watching 7 or 8 stances, Jinlun Faweng gave a wry laugh and said, "Valley Master Gongsun, giving them such allowances will lead to suffering for you." The Valley Master replied, "Big monk, if you don't think much of me, then why don't you wait for a little while and duel with me later? I don't need you to waste your breath in trying to give me advice." He hurried his sword and saber, and the wind sounds from the weapons became increasing louder. After a few more exchanges, Yang Guo used a stance of sweeping across the northern desert from the Quanjin swordplay, while Xiao Longnu used the colored pen, painting an eyebrow stance from the Jade Maiden swordplay. Both of these stances were horizontal strokes. Yang Guo's sword just swept across a few inches from the left to right, while Xiao Longnu flicked her sword subtly twice. The 2 stances became the stance, dressing under the mirror, from the pure heart of Jade Maiden sword. Valley Master Gongsun was shocked. He raised his black sword to block Yang Guo's sword and swept his saber across to guard his face. Xiao Longnu's sword drew across above his eyes. The sword and saber clashed. A dang sound was heard as the tip of the golden saber was actually cut off by the lady sword. The onlookers were shocked. They could never have predicted that such an ordinary-looking blunt sword would actually be so sharp. Yang Guo and Xiao Longnu were both surprised. They originally picked these weapons because of the names and the fact that they were the same. They couldn't have known that they had actually picked a pair of precious swords by luck. Their spirits were greatly roused, and swords kept on attacking. Valley Master Gongsun marveled in secret. "Sister Liu and that punk's martial arts can't compare with mine. I originally wasn't afraid of them joining together, but I didn't know that when their swords join it would actually be so powerful. It looks like that bald scoundrel was telling the truth. If I lose to these two. When he thought to this point, the saber in his right hand suddenly attacked left, and the sword in his right hand swept left, using his greatest skill, yin-yang wild blades. The black sword was originally soft and yin, but right now it was hacking and chopping solidly, changing into the yang and hard nature of saber play. Meanwhile, the heavy and clumsy jagged saber was now piercing and cutting, going down the road of lightness and swiftness. The saber had become a sword, the sword had become a saber, and it really was extraordinary. Jinlun Fawang, Xia Oxiang Zai, and Yin Kexi were all knowledgeable people, but the yin-yang wild blades was something that they've never seen or heard of before. Ma Guangzuo called out, "Hey, old man, what weird name has this mad kung fu of yours got? The older you get, the madder you get." Valley Master Gongsun was only around 40 years of age. Today he had wanted to marry Xiao Longnu, and because of this he's been called old man this and that by this dim-witted person. How can he not get angry? Right now he had no time for him. Now he used this kung fu that he'd studied bitterly for the last 20 years. He decided to defeat the two of them before doing anything else. With the two paired using their swordplay, they had begun to gain the upper hand. But the opponent had swapped his weapons around, and his stances were extraordinary. The two were put on their back foot and met many dangerous stances over a short period of time. Yang Gu saw that the black sword was stronger than the golden saber. He intercepted all the sword strokes and allowed Xiao Longnu to face the golden saber. He thought that because she had an advantage in weaponry, the Valley Master wouldn't dare to clash with the Lady Sword, and so she shouldn't meet any great danger. But by doing this, the two were effectively fighting separately. The swordplay of the pure heart of the Jade Maiden had separated into two, and its power immediately decreased. Valley Master Gongsun was delighted. He unleashed 3 chops with his black sword while the saber in his left hand used the stances, the still yang needle. The form of the yielding separates gold. The thorn pierces Qing and the 9 lotuses. Those 4 graceful and flowing sword stances were mixed in with the 3 saber stances. Yang Gu could still block these attacks, but Xiao Longnu was getting frantic. She wanted to use the sword to cut off the tip of the saber, but the golden saber moved like a flying phoenix. She could not touch it. Yang Gu knew something was wrong and disregarded his safety, and used a stance of the horse trampling on the descending flowers from the Quanjin swordplay, sending the sword from his upper arm aiming upwards, intercepting the opponent's saber and sword. Xiao Longnu immediately took back her sword and protected Yang Gu's upper body. The two once again joined together, returning back to the swordplay of the pure heart of the Jade Maiden. The theory of the swordplay lies in the two users having a mutual affinity for each other, as if two became one. In this stance, Yang Gu had forsaken his life to save Xiao Longnu. This was the supreme premise of this swordplay. Xiao Longnu saw his front wasn't guarded while he was saving her. She was afraid that he would get hurt and quickly helped him to protect himself. The two had not protected themselves, but both became protected as a result. The power of the swords suddenly increased. Many more stances passed, and beads of sweat could now be seen on the forehead of the Valley Master. His sword and saber stances were wanting, and a picture of defeat could be seen on him. On the other hand, Yang Gu and Xiao Longnu were becoming more and more fluid in their swordplay. Yang Gu's left hand held the shaft of the sword, and his right hand thrust the sword forward to the enemy's waist on the left. Xiao Longnu held the sword handle with both her hands and flicked the sword upwards. This stance was called resting loftily with a tidy brow. The stance was filled with love, tenderness, and gracefulness. Her heart was filled with love and passion. She turned her head to look at Yang Gu. Suddenly her chest felt as if a hammer had smashed up against it, and the finger on her right hand had broke out in unbearable pain. She almost dropped her sword. Her face changed and she leapt back 3 steps. Valley Master Gongsun chuckled. "Ha, the passion flower, the passion flower." The pleasure in his heart was greater than his jealousy. Xiao Longnu did not understand, but Yang Gu knew the poison of the passion flower had flared up. Her finger had just been pricked by the passion flower, and as she thought about love, her finger broke out with an unbearable pain. Yang Gu had tasted this pain before. He was deeply concerned for Xiao Longnu and softly asked, "Does it hurt very much?" Valley Master Gongsun took this opportunity to launch an attack. He urgently attacked with his sword and saber at Yang Gu. Xiao Longnu's pain had lessened, and she raised her sword again. Yang Gu was concerned for her and said, "Rest a little while longer." But as soon as he stirred his love for her, his finger broke out in pain once again. Valley Master Gongsun took this chance and chopped heavily with the black sword. A dang sound was heard as he knocked the gentleman's sword out of his hand. The black sword extended forward and was once again at his chest. Xiao Longnu was shocked and tried to save him, but she was blocked by the gold saber and had no way to advance. The Valley Master called out, "Hold that punk!" 4 disciples in green responded. They walked forward and twisted the net over him. They circled him a few times and held him tightly in the net. Valley Master Gongsun asked, "Sister Liu, what are you going to do?" Xiao Longnu knew that she was not a match for him alone. She threw down her lady sword on the floor and heard a ka sound. The gentleman's sword and lady sword leapt closer together, joining up tightly. The 2 swords actually had great magnetism. Xiao Longnu said solemnly, "If the swords can do this, how can we not do it? Just kill the 2 of us." Valley Master Gongsun gave a hug grunt and said, "Follow me." He folded his arms towards Yiweng and the others, saying, "Excuse me." He turned into the inner halls. The 4 disciples followed, dragging the net along with Yang Guo. Xiao Longnu followed. Ma Guangzuo said, "Hey monk, zombie head, we need to think of a way to save them." Jinlun Yiweng just smiled wryly and didn't reply. Xiaoxiang Zai chuckled and said, "Hey giant, can you beat that old man?" Ma Guangzuo stroked his cheek and couldn't think of a plan. He just said, "I'll fight even if I can't beat him. I'll fight even if I can't beat him." Valley Master Gongsun advanced forward with his head held high. He entered a small stone room and said, "Cut some passion flowers for me." Yang Guo and Xiao Longnu had already decided to die. They looked at each other, smiling and ignoring what Valley Master Gongsun said or did. Not long after, an enchanting fragrance entered the stone room. The 2 turned their heads to see what it was. There was a fusion of 5 colors, from tender red to soft yellow. More than 10 disciples in green had entered the room carrying bunches of passion flowers in their arms. Their arms were covered in leather, protecting them from the thorns of the flowers. Valley Master Gongsun waved his right arm. He said coldly, "Throw them on that scum." It was as if 10,000 wasps were stinging Yang Guo. His limbs, his bones, they all were overpowered with unbearable pain. He couldn't take it and called out in pain. Xiao Longnu felt pity and anger. She shouted at Valley Master Gongsun, "What are you doing?" She dashed forward, wanting to remove the passion flowers from Yang Guo. Valley Master Gongsun stretched out his hand to block her and said, "Sister Liu, today is the day when we would have consummated our marriage. But this punk entered the valley and ruined everything. We do not know each other and we have no debts or feuds, but you and he know each other. If he had acted courteously and respectfully as a guest, of course I would have treated him with great respect. Now that it has come to this," he then waved his left hand out and sent his disciples away. He closed the door. He continued, "Whether it'll end up in tragedy or joy, it will be up to you." The pain that Yang Guo was in was indescribable, but he didn't want Xiao Longnu to get upset, so he clenched his teeth and didn't make a sound. None of the words of Valley Master Gongsun entered his ears as he endured the pain. When Xiao Longnu saw the suffering he was in, her pity was roused, and as soon as this happened, the passion flower poison in her finger flared up, and she felt the excruciating pain again. She thought, "I've only been pierced once by the passion flower and it is already this painful. But he's covered with thousands and thousands of thorns. How can he stand it?" Valley Master Gongsun knew what she was thinking and said, "Sister Liu, I sincerely want to marry and be with you. I have only admiration and love for you. I have no ill intent. You should understand this." Xiao Longnu nodded her head and said mournfully, "You have treated me well all along. But even if we met before you saved me, and you treated me like an empress, you wouldn't be able to win my heart." She hung her head for a short while, and then gave a long sigh. She said, "Mr. Gongsun, if you hadn't seen me that day by the mountainside, if you hadn't saved me and had let me die there, it would have been better for the 3 of us. You know that forcing me to marry you will result in a lifetime of unhappiness for me. What good is that to you?" Valley Master Gongsun's eyebrows slowly rose again. He deepened his voice and said, "I have always been a man of my word. I don't allow people to insult or lie to me. Since you've agreed to marry me, you have to marry me. When it comes to happiness, sadness, joy, and pain, the future is hard to predict. Who knows what tomorrow may bring? Let's just see what happens." He waved his sleeve and said, "This person has been pricked by the passion flowers all over his body. The suffering will deepen every 2 hours. 36 days from now, he will die in excruciating pain. I have a medicine that I can give to him which will cure him within 24 hours. But after a day, even a god won't be able to save him. It's up to you whether he lives or dies." He walked slowly towards the door and pushed it open. He turned his head and said, "If you'd rather watch him die slowly, then you can stay here and watch him for the next 36 days. It's up to you. I won't harm you so you can relax. If you change your decision within 24 hours, all you've got to do is give a shout, and I will bring the antidote to him." He was about to leave the room. Xiao Longnu saw that Yang Yu was trembling all over. His lips were bleeding because of him biting down in pain. His eyes had been as bright as a shooting star, but now there was not even a single speck of light in them. The pain that he was in now was already unbearable, but the pain would deepen every 2 hours for the next 36 days. Even hell wouldn't have such a punishment. She bit down on her lip and said, "Mr. Gongsun, I'll agree to marry you. Quickly let him go and give him the antidote." Yang Yu's heart raced. He saw that there was a window on the eastern side of the room and ran over to it. He looked inside and saw that it wasn't Xiao Longnu. It was Gongsun Lu Yi who was standing in front of her father with her head hanging down. The Valley Master was sitting in the middle of the room while 2 disciples were holding long swords in their hands. Guarding the left and right of Gongsun Lu Yi, the Valley Master took the thorny stick and said coldly, "Heir, you're my own flesh and blood. Why did you betray me?" The Valley Master said, "Do you think I don't know that you've fallen for the one named Yang? I said I was going to let him go. Why were you so anxious? When I see him tomorrow, I'll betroth you to him. How about that?" How would Yang Yu not know how Gongsun Lu Yi felt about him? But right now, when it was said aloud in public, his heart raced. Gongsun Lu Yi still did not say anything and kept her head lowered. After a while, she lifted her head and said clearly, "Father, all you're thinking about right now is your marriage. What time you do have for your daughter?" Valley Master Gongsun gave a hang, grunt, and didn't say anything. Gongsun Lu Yi continued, "You are correct. I admire Master Yang's decency and honesty, his passion and righteousness. But I know that there is only Miss Long in his heart. I saved him because I can't stand what you have done. It is not because of him." Yang Yu was extremely moved by this and thought, "This scoundrel is so cruel and violent, yet he has a daughter who is so kind and righteous." Valley Master Gongsun's face was unmoved. There were no signs of being angry on his face as he said dryly, "So according to you, I'm not an honest person, someone who's not righteous and who's not passionate." Gongsun Lu Yi said, "I do not dare to describe Father this way." But, the Valley Master said, "But what?" Gongsun Lu Yi said, "Master Yang has been pierced by thousands and thousands of passion flower thorns. How can he withstand the suffering? Father, you're merciful and kind, just let him go." The Valley Master chuckled, "I'm going to let him go tomorrow. I don't need you to be so meddlesome." Gongsun Lu Yi tilted her head and pondered, appearing as if she was weighing up whether she should say the words she had on her mind. Eventually her face became resolute and she said, "Father, you're the one who raised me. That Master Yang is an outsider I've just met. How can I betray you and help him? If Father was really going to let him go and cure his poison, why would I need to take the great risk of going to the pill room?" Valley Master Gongsun said sternly, "Then why did you go there?" Gongsun Lu Yi said, "I know that you have ill intent towards him. After you've forced Miss Long to marry you, you will kill Master Yang to end Miss Long's longing." Valley Master Gongsun's eyebrows raised again. He said coldly, "Huh, it looks like I've reared an ill-boding tiger. I brought you up and here you are now biting back at me. Give it." He stretched out his hand. Lu Yi said, "What does Father want?" The Valley Master said, "You're still playing dumb. I want the passionless pill that cures the poison of the passion flower." Lu Yi said, "I did not take it." The Valley Master stood up and said, "Then where did it go?" Yang Yu examined the room. He saw the cupboards were lined with bottles of medicine, and there were countless herbs hung on the wall. In the western side of the room were 3 pill cauldrons. This room looks like none other than that so-called pill room. From the expression of Valley Master Gongsun, it appeared that Gongsun Lu Yi would definitely face a heavy punishment. He heard her say, "Father, it's true. I entered the pill room by myself because I wanted to find the passionless pill for Master Yang. But I searched for half a day and still couldn't find it. Otherwise, would I have been found out by Father?" Valley Master Gongsun said sternly, "The place where I hide this medicine is extremely secretive. The outsiders have stayed in the hall and have not left it. The passionless pill has suddenly disappeared. Could it be that the pill grew legs and ran away?" Lu Yi knelt on the floor and cried, "Father, spare Master Yang's life. Just tell him not to enter the valley again and leave it at that." The Valley Master chuckled. "If it was my life on the line, I don't think you would kneel on the floor and beg someone to save me." Lu Yi didn't reply and just hugged his knees. The Valley Master said, "You took the passionless pill. How can I save him now?" "Fine, if you don't want to admit it, that's up to you. You can wait here for a day. Though you've stolen the pill, if you can't get it to him, it will be of no use. I'll let you go in 24 hours. He then advanced to the doors. Gongsun Lu Yi bit down as she said, "Father." The Valley Master said, "You've got something else to say?" She pointed to the 4 disciples in green and said, "First dismiss them." The Valley Master said, "My valley is united as one. There's nothing that's said that can't be said in front of the others." Gongsun Lu Yi's face went red and then immediately turned white. She said, "Fine, since you don't believe my words, then you need to see whether I have it on me." She then began to take off her gown and skirt. The Valley Master quickly waved the disciples out and closed the door. After a short while, Gongsun Lu Yi had taken off her gown and skirt and was now left with her undergarments. Indeed, she had nothing on her. Yang Guo's heart jumped when he saw her white, gleaming body. He was a young man, and Gongsun Lu Yi had an attractive figure, her appearance elegant. His blood raced, but then he immediately thought, "Because she's trying to save my life, she didn't hesitate to unclothe herself. Yang Guo, Yang Guo, if you take another look, you're worse than an animal." He quickly closed his eyes, but just as he was feeling troubled and confused, his forehead lightly knocked into the frame of the window. Though only a faint noise was produced, Valley Master Gongsun noticed it. He went over to the 3 pill cauldrons and pushed the middle one out of the way. He moved the one in the east to the middle. He moved the one in the west to the east, and finally he moved the one that was originally in the middle to the west. He said, "Since it's like this, I'll promise you to spare that punk's life." Gongsun Lu Yi was delighted and bowed. She quivered. "Father." The Valley Master sat down on a chair by the wall and said, "You know the rules of the valley. What is the punishment for entering the pill room without permission?" Lu Yi lowered her head and said, "Death." The Valley Master sighed and said, "Though you are my daughter, I cannot break the rules of the valley. Go in peace." He drew out his black sword and raised it in midair. He said softly, "Heir, if you stop pleading for the one named Yang, then I'll spare you. I can only spare one of you, you or him." Gongsun Lu Yi said quietly, "Him." Valley Master Gongsun said, "Fine, my daughter really is kind and righteous. Much better than her father." He waved his sword out and chopped downwards towards her head. Yang Guo was shocked and called out, "Wait!" He leapt in through the window as he called out, "You should kill me!" His right foot touched the floor, and he was about to stretch out his hand to grab the Valley Master's wrist to stop the black sword from chopping down when the sole of his foot felt soft, as if he was treading on thin air. Yang Guo knew something was wrong. He quickly roused his kai, and his body leapt up. Valley Master Gongsun pushed his daughter on the shoulders with his palms. Gongsun Lu Yi's body quickly went backwards, knocking into Yang Guo. After he leapt back up, of course, he went back down. Gongsun Lu Yi had knocked right into his body, and the 2 of them dropped straight down. There was nothing under their feet, and they had yet to reach solid ground even after falling for hundreds of feet. Though Yang Guo was frightened, he still remembered he had to protect the life of Gongsun Lu Yi. He quickly held Gongsun Lu Yi in his hands. There was just darkness in front of him. He didn't know what they would land on. A mountain of knives or a forest of swords? Or would it be boulders or rocks? Before his thoughts were finished, a poo-tong sound was heard as the 2 fell into water, sinking downwards swiftly. There was actually a deep pool below the pill room. The underground old lady. Falling hundreds of feet like this onto solid ground could only result in death. But as soon as Yang Guo felt himself splashing into water, he was delighted. He knew that his life was not in danger. The current was strong, and he had plunged deep into the water. He felt himself sinking downwards without end, as if the water was depthless. He held his breath and waited until he slowed down before he swam upwards with his right hand while holding Lu Yi in his left hand. As soon as he reached the surface, he took a breath, and a sudden stench filled his nose. At the same time, the water on his left was breaking in waves, as if some large aquatic animal was coming towards them to attack. A thought went through his mind. That scoundrel trapped us down here. How can it be something good? With his right hand, he chopped a fierce palm towards the left side. A loud sound was heard as he struck a large, solid object. A fierce, turbulent wave followed. Yang Guo used the force from his palm to move to the right with Gongsun Lu Yi. He wasn't a great swimmer. The reason why he was able to last so long underwater was because he used his internal energy to hold his breath. It was pitch black. All he heard was urgent splashing sounds from behind and to the left of him. He sent his right hand out and suddenly brushed against a cold and coarse object. It appeared to be the scales of that creature. He was shocked. Could it be that there's such a thing as a venom dragon in this world? He used the force in his hand and soared upwards with the strange creature forced underwater by him. He took a deep breath since he planned to dive underwater once again, but his right foot actually landed on solid ground. He wasn't prepared for this, and the impact on his leg was all wrong. His right leg was in great pain, but he was too happy to care about the pain in his leg. He stretched out his hand to examine the surroundings and found a rock face by the pool. He was afraid that the strange creature would continue its attack, so he quickly climbed to higher ground. Once he sat down, he became calmer. Gongsun Lu-yi had swallowed a few mouthfuls of water and she was half conscious. Yang Gu rested her on his lap and let her throw up the water. Then he heard scraping sounds on the rocks and a stench that was gradually becoming stronger and stronger. A few of the strange creatures from the pool had climbed out. Gongsun Lu-yi sat up and hugged Yang Gu's neck. Alarmed, she said, "What's that?" Yang Gu said, "Don't be afraid, hide behind me." Gongsun Lu-yi didn't move, she just held him tighter and quivered, "Crocodiles, crocodiles." When Yang Gu was living on Peach Blossom Island, he had seen countless crocodiles on the island. He knew that they were extremely vicious and violent, much more than the tigers and wolves of the land. One day, he, Gu Fu, and the Wu brothers saw them, but they didn't try to annoy them and kept their distance from them. Today, unexpectedly, he had come across some crocodiles in this underground pool. He listened carefully, and from the sounds, he could tell that there were 3 crocodiles getting closer step by step. Gongsun Lu-yi whispered, "Brother Yang, who would have thought that you and I would die in such a place?" Her voice was full of joy and comfort. Yang Gu laughed. "Even if we are going to die, we first need to kill a few crocodiles before doing anything else." At that time, the first crocodile was already within 10 feet of Yang Gu's leg. Lu-yi called out, "Hit it quickly," Yang Gu said. "Just a little longer." He stretched out his right foot and hung it down by his side. The crocodile advanced a few feet and opened its mouth, biting viciously at his leg. Yang Gu pulled his leg back and sent out a kick, striking the crocodile squarely in the jaw. The crocodile somersaulted in the air and landed back in the pool. The pool splashed and the other crocodiles in it clamored, but the other 2 crocodiles kept on advancing. Though Yang Gu was poisoned by the passion flowers, his martial arts had not been affected in any way. The kick he just performed had a force of hundreds of kilos behind it. After he kicked the crocodile, his foot ached slightly. However, the crocodile that he kicked was still moving freely after it landed back in the pool. He thought, "I can't do anything to all these crocodiles empty-handed. If I continue like this, me and Miss Gongsun will eventually end up in their stomachs. I must think of something else. How can I kill all these crocodiles?" He stretched out his hand in search of a large rock to use as a weapon. But there wasn't anything on the rock face, not even a speck of sand. He heard the other 2 crocodiles getting closer and quickly asked, "Have you got a sword with you?" Gongsun Lu-yi said, "With me." She remembered how she took off her gown and dress. All she was wearing now was her underwear. Now she was in the arms of Yang Gu. She immediately became embarrassed and her body flushed with heat. But deep in her heart, there was a sweet feeling of joy. Yang Gu was just worried about being attacked by the crocodiles at the moment. He did not notice anything wrong with her. He heard the 2 crocodiles were now within 10 feet of him, and there were another 2 behind him. It would be of no use to send out a palm and knock them back into the pool. After a short while, they would come back again. It would just be a waste of effort. So he gathered energy and waited for the crocodiles to get within 3 feet of him before sending out both palms, striking the crocodiles on the head. The crocodiles weren't that swift in turning and they couldn't move out the way when the palms arrived. But their skin was thick. They were just knocked unconscious and slipped back into the pool. Just at that time, the other 2 crocodiles behind him arrived. Yang Gu kicked one off the rock face with his left foot. The kick was very heavy. He could not hold Gongsun Lu-yi steady, and she slanted to the side, slipping downwards off the rock face. Gongsun Lu-yi called out in shock. Her right hand braced against the rock face, and she circulated her internal energy to leap back up. Yang Gu stretched out a hand to grab her and pulled her back up. This setback allowed the other crocodile to press close to him. It opened its jaws and bit down towards Yang Gu's shoulders. There wasn't enough time to punch or kick it away. He could only move out of its way. As soon as its jaws close, it might actually bite down on Lu-yi. With this danger in mind, he quickly sent out both hands. One pulled the upper jaw and the other pulled the lower. He circulated his internal energy and gave a shout. A cracking sound was heard as the jaws of the crocodile snapped, and it immediately died. Though Yang Gu had killed this vicious crocodile, His back had broken out in a cold sweat. Lu Yi said, "Are you hurt?" Yang Guo heard her voice was gentle and concerned. His heart was moved slightly and he said, "No." But the force he had just used was too ferocious and his arms ached. Lu Yi observed that the crocodile was not moving and was lying there on the rock dead. She was in awe of Yang Guo and said, "How did you kill that crocodile empty-handed? And how can you see so clearly in this darkness?" Yang Guo said, "I've lived with my Gu for many years in the ancient tomb. All I need is the faintest light and I'll be able to see things." When he mentioned living in the tomb with his Gu, he couldn't stop himself from letting out a sigh. Suddenly, an excruciating pain broke out in his body. It was extremely difficult to endure, and he hollered and shouted, and at the same time, he kicked the dead crocodile back into the pool. Two crocodiles were climbing up onto the rock face just at that time. When they heard his inhuman calls, they were so frightened that they slipped back into the water. Gongsun Lu Yi quickly held his arm and with her other hand, brushed across his forehead gently, hoping that she would be able to lessen his pain. Yang Guo knew that even if he hadn't fallen into this dangerous situation, he would not live for more than a couple of days because of the poison. He had heard the Valley Master say that the pain would keep on increasing over the next 36 days before he finally died. The pain was so unbearable that even if he endured it a few more times, he'd eventually give in to the pain and kill himself. But when he dies, Gongsun Lu Yi will have no one to protect her. That would be terrible for her, and he thought, "The reason she's in this danger is because of me. No matter what pain I'm in, I must endure it. Hopefully the Valley Master will still have some love for his daughter and will come to save her." As he thought about this, his thoughts of Xiao Longnu disappeared for the time being and the pain lessened. He said, "Miss Gongsun, don't be afraid. I think that your father will come for you. He hates me only and has always loved you. He must be feeling very regretful right now." Gongsun Lu Yi cried, "When my mother was alive, father really did love me. But after mother died, he became cold towards me. However, I know that. I know that in his heart he doesn't hate me." She stopped for a while and thought of many strange and hard-to-explain things. She said, "Brother Yang, I've suddenly thought of something. My father has always been afraid of me." Yang Guo said, surprised, "He's afraid of you? That's strange." Lu Yi said, "I just feel that whenever my father sees me, he doesn't seem to be at ease. It's like he's got something hidden in his heart and is afraid that I will find out about it. Over the past few years, he's been avoiding me and doesn't want to see me." She had noticed that her father's expression had been strange. Though she wondered about this, she reached the same conclusion every time. The reason he's changed is because he was deeply hurt by her mother's passing away. But this time, falling into the crocodile pit was definitely her father's plan. He had moved the pill cauldrons in the pill room to activate the collapsing floor. If her father hated Yang Guo and wanted to kill him, all he had to do was keep the antidote for the passion flower poison away from him, and he would have little chance of living. Now that Yang Guo had fallen into the crocodile pit, the chance of him escaping death was next to none. So why did her father push her into the crocodile pit as well? What fatherly love was there in that push? This wasn't a slip due to anger. He had planned this. The more she thought about it, the sadder she became because it was becoming clearer and clearer to her. There were many words and actions of her father that she did not understand and just used the reason, eccentric behavior to explain it all. Right now, as she thought, it appeared that the word fear was more apt. Her father fearing her was something that she could never have conceived. The crocodile pool broke out in a thrashing roar as all the crocodiles fought over the dead crocodile. They'd stopped climbing up onto the rock face for the time being. Yang Guo saw that she was deep in thought and asked, "Maybe your father has some kind of hidden secret and you've somehow stumbled upon it by accident?" Lu Yi shook her head and said, "No, my father's actions are honorable. He is very fair, and everyone in the valley had great respect for him. His treatment of you really is wrong, but he has never done such uncharacteristic things like this before." Yang Guo did not know about the past affairs of the Passionless Valley, and so it was hard for him to help her guess what the reasons were behind all this. The crocodile pool was deep underground and was cold like an ice cave. The two were wet and felt the effects even more. Yang Guo had trained on the chilled jade bed and took no notice of such insignificant coldness. But Gongsun Lu Yi kept on shivering and searching for warmth in Yang Guo's arms. Yang Guo knew that this girl would be feeling frightened and sad right now. As he watched the struggle in the crocodile pool, he wanted to make her laugh. The crocodiles were opening their mouths and showing vicious teeth, looking extremely terrifying, so he laughed. "Miss Gongsun, we're going to die together today." When you reincarnate in the next life, what do you want to reincarnate as? Whatever happens, I don't want to change into one of these unsightly crocodiles. Gongsun Lu Yi smiled a little and said, then you should change into a narcissus flower. It's beautiful and fragrant, and it's something that everyone loves. Yang Gu laughed. The only types of people who are worthy of changing into those kind of flowers are people like you. If it's me, I'll get changed into some ugly daisy or chrysanthemum. Lu Yi laughed. If the Yan Luo Wang, ruler of hell, tells you to change into a passion flower, would you? Yang Gu was silent and did not reply. He was feeling great resentment and thought, with Gu Gu's and my pure heart of the Jade Maiden sword, that scoundrel is not our match. At the time he was on his back foot, he was about to lose. But things had to happen this way. Gu Gu had been pierced by the passion flower in the sword room. When we were about to use swordplay, which requires the users to be as one and to be filled with love to make use of its power, the poison prevented it. This is fate. I can't do anything about it. I wonder how Gu Gu is right now. As soon as he thought about Xiao Longnu again, his body broke out in pain all over. When Gongsun Lu Yi heard him stay silent, she knew that she shouldn't have mentioned the passion flower. She quickly changed the subject and said, Brother Yang, you're able to see the crocodiles while all I see in front of me is darkness. Yang Gu laughed. The crocodiles are extremely ugly. It's better not to see them. He patted her on the back gently to console her. But as soon as he touched her, he felt something cold, smooth, and soft. Then he remembered how she undressed herself in front of her father in the pill room. She only had on her underwear, her shoulders and neck were uncovered. Yang Gu was slightly alarmed and quickly pulled back his hand. Lu Yi thought about how he could see things in the dark. Her semi-clothed self would be seen clearly by him, and she couldn't stop herself from calling out, "Oh no!" She automatically moved away a little. Yang Gu sat a little distance away from her and took off his gown to cover her with. As he took it off, not only did he think about Xiao Longnu, but he also thought about Cheng Ying, who made a gown for him, and Lu Wuxia, who was willing to die for him. He blamed himself for letting down the kindness of all these beautiful girls, and he felt guilt for not being able to repay them. He couldn't stop himself from letting out a long sigh. Gongsun Lu Yi straightened the gown and tied the belt around herself. Suddenly, she felt a small package in the gown's pockets. She took it out and handed it over to Yang Gu, saying, "What's this? Do you need it?" Yang Gu took it in his hands and felt that it was fairly heavy. He said, "What is this?" Lu Yi laughed. "I found it in your pockets. Why are you asking me about it?" Yang Gu looked at it and saw that it was a small package covered in rough cloth. He had never seen it before and immediately opened it. There was a sudden light in front of his eyes. 4 objects were within that package. One of them was a little dagger. On the handle was a pearl of the size of a long yan stone. It glimmered and sparkled, the light shining on Gongsun Lu Yi's graceful face, he thought. People say that pearls are lights of the night. It appears that this isn't a lie. Lu Yi suddenly screamed, "Ye!" She stretched out her hand towards the package and picked up a small emerald-colored jar. She called out, "This is the passionless pill." Yang Gu was shocked and delighted. He asked, "This is the medicine that cures the poison of the passion flowers." Lu Yi shook the jar a few times and felt that something was in the jar. She said with delight, "Yes, I was looking for this in the pill room for half a day. When did you take it? How did you take it? How come you haven't taken it yet? You don't know that this is the passionless pill, right?" In her delight, her questions were non-stop, not allowing Yang Gu any time to reply. Yang Gu scratched his head and said, "I don't know anything about this jar of medicine. How did it get into my pockets? This really is strange." In the light of the pearl on the dagger, Lu Yi could see clearly what other things were in the package. Besides the dagger and the emerald-colored jar of the passionless pill, there was a square piece of sheep's skin about 7 or 8 inches in length and half of a spirit fungus. Linge. A thought went through her mind and she said, "This piece of spirit fungus was the piece that was broken off by the old urchin." Yang Gu said, "The old urchin?" Lu Yi said, "Yes. I'm in charge of the fungi room, and this is the fungus from the 100 jade plate." The old urchin turned the sword, pill, fungi, and library rooms upside down. He destroyed books and stole swords. He kicked over the cauldrons and ripped up the fungi. This is all the handiwork of the old urchin. Yang Gu suddenly understood and said, "Yes, yes." Yang Gu said, "This package was placed on me by Senior Zhou Lao." He now knew that Zhou Batong had the intention of aiding him. Because of this, he changed his naming of Old Urchin to Senior Zhou Lao. It also became clear to Lu Yi, she said, "So he gave it to you?" Yang Gu said, "I didn't even know that he gave it to me." This Wulin Senior does as he pleases in the world. His movements are mysterious. When he took my mask and scissors, I didn't notice it. When he put this package on me, I felt nothing. My abilities are not even half as good as his." Lu Yi nodded and said, "Yes, father said that he stole things from the valley and said that he must be captured, but he took off all his clothes in front of so many people and showed that there was nothing on him." Yang Guo laughed. "He had hidden the package on me before that and actually managed to deceive the valley master by taking off his clothes." Lu Yi opened the emerald-colored jar and covered it with her left hand, shaking the contents into the palm of her hand. A square-looking pill came out of the jar onto her palm. The pill was extremely dark and its smell was overpowering. Most pills are round so one can easily swallow it, but if it was from a slab of medicine, it will be long and flat. Yang Guo had never seen a square pill before. He took the pill from Lu Yi and examined it closely. Lu Yi shook the jar a few times again and patted the jar into her palm a few times before saying, "That's it, there's only one pill. Take it now, it'll be terrible if it falls into the pool." Yang Guo was about to put the pill in his mouth when he heard her say, "There's only one pill." He was stunned and asked, "Only one? Has your father got any more?" Lu Yi said, "That's why it is so precious, because there is only one pill. Otherwise, why would my father get so angry?" Yang Guo was shocked and quivered. "My Gugu has this poison as well. How will your father save her?" Lu Yi sighed. "I once heard from my senior apprentice brother that there were originally many passionless pills in the pill room, but for some reason there was only one left. This pill is extremely hard to produce. There was no way to gather all the precious herbs and medicine to make any more. Because of this, my senior apprentice brother warned us that we must be extremely careful of the passion flower. If it's a little pierce from it, one will recover from it after a few days. If that happens, it's not too serious. But if the poison is deep, it will be difficult for the Valley Master to act because one pill can only save one person." Yang Guo kept on saying, "Oh no," and then said, "How come your father hasn't come to save you yet?" Lu Yi immediately knew what he was thinking and saw him placing the pill back into the jar. She let out a light sigh and said, "Brother Yang, how can my father feel no shame in light of your love for Miss Long? You're hoping that I'll be able to take the pill back up and save Miss Long's life." Yang Guo showed a little smile as his thoughts were revealed. He said, "Of course I hope that such a kind girl as you will leave this dangerous place safely. But I also hope that my Gugu's life can be saved. Even if I cure my passion flower poison, I won't last long if I stay down here in this crocodile pit. Of course, saving my Gugu is more important." He thought, "Gugu's beauty is unparalleled. It's normal that someone like the Valley Master would want to marry her. But when Gugu refused to marry him, he lured her to the sword room to harm her. He really is evil. Now he knows that the only passionless pill has been taken away. There is no way to cure the passion flower poison in Gugu. She just has 36 days to live, and all he's concerned about is making her submit to him. Even the crocodiles in this pit have more heart than him." Lu Yi knew that no matter how hard she tries to persuade him to take the pill, it will be of no use. She regretted telling him that there was only one pill, so she said, "This spirit fungus can't cure poisons, but it can strengthen one's body. Eat it quickly." Yang Guo said, "Yes." He broke the piece of spirit fungus into two. He put one piece into his mouth and put the other piece in front of Lu Yi's mouth. He said, "We don't know when your father will let you go, so eat this piece to help protect yourself against this cold." Lu Yi saw that he was concerned for her and couldn't bear to refuse, so she opened her mouth. This spirit fungus had been grown for hundreds of years. Not long after the two ate it, they felt an extremely comfortable warmth throughout their bodies, a boost in their energy, and they felt sharper. Lu Yi suddenly said, "Father must have known that Zhou Batong had stolen the passionless pill. He was lying to Miss Long when he said he was going to cure you, and when he was forcing me to hand over the passionless pill, he was acting then as well." Yang Guo had thought about this a while ago, but he didn't want to make her sadder, so he kept quiet about it. When he heard her realizing this on her own, he said, "When your father lets you out, you need to be extremely careful. The best thing for you to do is leave the valley as quickly as possible." Lu Yi sighed, "You don't know my father. Since he's pushed me down here into this crocodile pit, he will never change his mind and rescue me. He was already worried about me. After this event, how can he allow me to live? Brother Yang, will you let me die with you?" Yang Guo was about to say a few words to comfort her when he suddenly heard another crocodile climbing onto the rock face, its front foot stepping onto sheepskin from the package. Yang Guo had a thought, that sheepskin looked kind of strange. He picked up the dagger and stabbed it between the eyes of the crocodile. A poo sound was heard as it went straight through. The dagger that he was holding was actually extremely sharp and was capable of chopping gold and cutting jade. The crocodile struggled a little bit before falling back into the pool on its back, dead. Yang Guo said with delight, "Now that we've got this dagger, those crocodiles in the pool have run out of luck." He picked up the sheepskin with his left hand and brought the dagger over, using the faint light from the pearl to carefully study it. The sheepskin was coarse on one side and there was nothing odd about it, but turning it over revealed drawings of many buildings, rooms, rocks, and the like. Yang Guo looked at it for a while but didn't find anything strange about it. He said, "This sheepskin is of no use to us." Lu Yi had been looking over his shoulder all along and suddenly said, "That's a map of our Narcissus Manor of the Passionless Valley. Look, that's the brook that led you here, that's the main hall, that's the sword room, that's the fungi room, and that's the pill room." She pointed to the map as she said this. Yang Guo suddenly called out and said, "Look, look." He pointed to a drawing of water underneath the pill room. Lu Yi said, "That's the crocodile pool. Ah, there's a passageway here." The two could see that there was a passageway drawn next to the crocodile pool and their spirits rose. Yang Guo matched the map to the crocodile pool and said, "If the map's right, after passing through the passageway, there'll definitely be an exit." "But," Lu Yi interrupted, "but what's strange is that the passageway is going downwards. This crocodile pool is already deep underground. Where will the passageway lead if it keeps on going further down?" The passageway on the map finished at the edge of the sheepskin. They didn't know where it leads. Yang Guo said, "Has your father or senior apprentice brother ever mentioned this crocodile pool before?" Lu Yi shook her head and said, "I only learned today that there were so many terrifying things hidden underneath the pill room. Even senior apprentice brother may not know about it. But to keep all these crocodiles alive will require regular feeding. Why does father?" She trembled all over as she thought about how evil her father was. Yang Guo took a look around and noticed a dark circular shape behind the rock face. It appeared to be the entrance to a tunnel, but it was too far away. He wasn't really sure. He thought, even if that is the passageway, I don't know what other kinds of vicious creatures might be lurking around in there. If we come across them, it might be even more dangerous for us than the situation we are in now. Even so, we can't sit here and wait for death. We're going to die anyway, so we might as well take the risk in trying to find a way out. All I want is for Miss Gongsun to get out of this danger and pass the antidote on to Gugu." So he passed the dagger into the hands of Lu Yi and said, "I'll go take a look. Be careful of the crocodiles." His right foot touched the rock face and he flew away into the pool. Lu Yi called out in alarm. Yang Guo's right foot landed on the stomach of the dead crocodile and used it to leap forward. He then landed on the back of a crocodile with his left foot. The crocodile sank into the water while Yang Guo leapt to the other shore. He pressed his body against the rock and searched the surface with his hand. He called out, "There's a large cave over here." Gongsun Lu Yi's lightness kung fu was not anywhere as good as his. She didn't dare to leap over to the cave like he did. Yang Guo thought that if he went back to carry her on his back, their weight will increase. Not only will their leaping be inconvenienced, they will not be able to use the crocodiles as supports. But since it had come to this, he had to risk it and called out, "Miss Gongsun, soak your gown and throw it over to me." Lu Yi did not know what he was going to do, but did as she was told. She took off her gown and gave it a quick soak in the pool, then hurriedly pulled it back up. She made 2 knots in the gown, forming a ball. She called out, "It's coming." She circulated her internal energy and shot it over. Yang Guo caught it and untied the gown. He found a place to secure his footing and used his left hand to grab tightly onto a piece of jutting rock. His right hand swung the wet gown and he said, "Listen carefully." He swung the wet gown forward and waved it about. A pie sound was heard as he struck the mouth of the cave. He struck it 3 times in a row and asked, "Can you tell where the cave is?" Lu Yi had listened and could tell where it was. She said, "Yes." Yang Guo said, "Jump forward and grab the gown, I'll pull you over." Lu Yi opened her eyes wide and tried to see, but all she saw was darkness. She was really frightened and said, I can't." Yang Guo said, "There's no need to be scared. If you miss the gown and fall into the pool, I'll dive in immediately to save you. We were afraid of the crocodiles when we first came here. But now we've got this dagger which can slice metal like butter. What have we got to fear?"